The Eagles won the.
I brought it up in his eulogy when I said his eulogy. I want an answer before this goes over.
I'm not playing. This is a special edition.
I play with you all the time.
It's First Friday, presented by David Dodge, 97.5 The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And we appreciate you getting in early with us this morning on this First Friday. John Kincade Show here on the Fanatic and the 6 o'clock hour. As always, brought to you by Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White here for the pro. Got plenty of seats and ready to go. We'll have our studio audience arriving in the next hour or so as we partake in what should be hopefully a happy toned show today, because I don't really think there's a lot of happiness in Mudville, or joy. Is it in Mudville, Bob?
Joy in Mudville.
Joy in Mudville is the poem from back in the day. The Joel Embiid injury news sort of dominating the news cycle, despite Tyrese Maxey going for 51 last night as they salvaged one game in the road trip at Utah last night, making up for that loss to Utah at home. And but the Joel Embiid injury, really the dominant talking point right now as we begin today. Wondering, what does a lateral meniscus mean, Bob? You're a Bob. Some people don't realize this. Bob is a doctor, so he can comment on these things.
No.
What is a lateral meniscus going to? What is your
Isn't
thought
it funny
process?
that I said on these airways like 2 days ago that it's going to be a meniscus?
That's what you said.
You'll see. It's a meniscus. It's an injury that every person in this world, if they took an MRI of Haley's knee right now, they could find meniscus problems.
My wife has one.
Yeah.
And she's never done anything for it.
No. Remember a couple years ago, I think it was, when he had a meniscus thing, and they said, oh, it's going to require surgery, but it never did.
Right.
Meniscus is something, from the way it was described to me a few years ago, from a trainer in one of the professional sports, that you could basically take an MRI of every professional athlete's knee and find a meniscus problem. So what does it mean? I don't know. The tear, so the way the meniscus goes, if the higher the tear that requires surgery. So I wonder if they're waiting for some swelling to go down or something, where they say we're going to get more clarity about it this weekend. I wonder if there is going to be another MRI that maybe they waited for more swelling to go down so they can get a real good look at it. Yeah, I think what it is they then see where it is. Surgery, knowing for certain that you could come back in 6 to 8 weeks, whatever. If you wait 3 weeks and it doesn't get better, then you have to get surgery. Then it prolongs it. So I think it's probably, and this is all speculation, everyone, it's probably weighing the decisions right now of, all right, what should you do? What can you do? What do you want to do?
Now, you use the word propose. So is the proposal to the Sixers brass? Is the proposal to Joel, here are all your options? Does he get to make this call? Or did the Sixers make this call? Because the other night, Joel Embiid did not make an intelligent decision. So I'm hoping that he does not get to make this decision, honestly. That it's something that the organization says, hey, this is the smartest plan of attack.
Yeah, I think it's all put out there. Nick Nurse is right there with it. Obviously the medical group is right there. You're all in a room. Everybody, Joel Embiid, medical staff, coaches, assistants, general managers. And you say, okay, here's where it is. What do you think? And, Joel, how bad is the pain? Like, how hard is it? It looked like the other night you were trying to coil your legs to jump, and you fell to the floor. So it appears to be bad. Joint effort, I think. Medical staff probably saying, our thoughts are this. This might be the best move. I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know whose final decision it would be. I would assume the players.
I can't trust his judgment, though. Because
well,
we're
you
here.
Never trust a player's judgment.
Okay, so
like
you say,
me and you, John. Like,
right.
We're just competitive individuals.
Yes.
you would go out and play with a broken leg.
Right. I'm not going to.
And like
right.
we all would. So that is also very much taken into consideration. It'll be one of those things, just like any meetings we have. I don't know. What do you guys? All right, medical guys, what is the best way to go? And if they say surgery right away, I think that's what they'll do.
And I use it, the line that Keith Weingard sent me yesterday about it. We're talking about this on Groundhog Day, and Pat, that really is for this fan base. It is a full dose of PTSD on Joel Embiid news.
Yeah, it just seems like every year we're dealing with this around the same time. There's something. I mean, the meniscus thing, I feel like it's popped up 5 times in his Sixers career at this point.
Well, the Hawks series was one of them.
Hawks series last year, I think it was a meniscus injury that happened. There was the game that I talked about, like his 3rd year. He's playing the Rockets on national television. He comes down awkwardly after a dunk. I think that was a meniscus. It just seems like every year it's the same injury. It's the same time frame. He goes in, they'll reevaluate it. All right, they don't think he needs surgery. He can play through it. At this point, like, just shut him down to the playoffs. Like, shut him down. If he had surgery, I think it'd be honestly a blessing at this point, because at least he'd enter the postseason healthy, somewhat healthy. I mean, I don't feel like dealing with the rehab, and at that point you're kind of just walking on eggshells, I feel like. So, but yes, it's very much Groundhog Day.
So I'll give you the highs and lows of a meniscus, okay,
right.
John? So 2 years ago, I believe, the Sixers are in the playoff, and we hear that he has a meniscus tear, right?
Yes.
Played through the playoffs and played well. They lost, but he played well, never got surgery after that. And you've brought this up many times. They said he needed surgery. They said it was a meniscus. They never did it. That's one example. Another one is we're in Orlando. I forget the year. The team's doing warm-ups before the game, and I'm watching Jahlil Okafor, if you remember him.
Sure.
He's doing warm-ups, and he's shaking his leg. They come off the court to go to the locker room real quick before they come out for their real warm-up, and he's walking off, and I'm standing there. I'm like, you all right? He goes, nah, I don't know. Knee feels weird. Played that night. They did a thing. They said, yeah, it might be a meniscus thing. Not that big of a deal. Played for another couple of weeks. Then they took him off, did surgery. He was out 8 months.
Oh, my gosh. That's what nobody wants to hear.
Do you remember that, Pat? Like, didn't
nobody wants to hear that.
It was towards the end of the season.
He was never really
got
seen
it done.
either.
Yeah, got it done, and then went to come back, and he was out the beginning of the next season. Like, that's so. I don't know if players react differently to it. I don't know if the reporting on it is different from doctors. How big is the tear? This one, they didn't say tear. I don't know, but he's out for a while, I would say.
Keith Pompey joined the Best Show Ever yesterday, did a fantastic job with them, and they had a really interesting conversation. And one of the things that he brought up is something that I asked about yesterday. Did the 65-game MVP consideration come into the discussion and play a part in him playing the other night? So that's where it falls sort of, Pat, into what you were talking about, that how much you really dislike this 65-game rule.
Yeah.
And Keith Pompey saying it absolutely appears to have had something to do with Embiid pushing himself back.
The 65-game thing, I think, is – I'm just going to look at everybody with an asterisk. Who's the best players in basketball, injuries or not, and a guy that's going to be leading the league in scoring and doing something that hasn't been done since Wilt played, which is have more points than minutes played. The idea he's not going to be, first-team NBA and the MVP race is absurd. And what Keith said there is understandable. Like, of course he wants to enter the postseason healthy. Of course he wants to win a championship. But why wouldn't you also want to win MVP? If you're the best player in the league, you'd also want to win an MVP.
And you think you deserve it. You think it's like a
you
birthright.
do deserve, yeah, you think
or
you
at
deserve
least to be
it.
in that discussion.
Exactly, right? You should be in that discussion. Do I think that was the be-all, end-all, though, in the discussion of whether you should have played the other night? No, I think that had more to do with, guys on ESPN basically calling him soft for not playing against Jokic and having this narrative that he ducks a guy that he cooks every time he plays him. I think that had more to do with it. Like, okay, you think I'm soft? Well, then I'll play through this.
And it's a shame. Like, if you just have your basis of your foundation of who you are. Like, be honest with yourself. Yeah, you guys might call me soft. Sorry, I can't play. My knees bother me that bad that I can't play. When I do play, I'm the best player in the league. Do I have to show that even when I'm not healthy? I wouldn't think so. Like, why? It doesn't benefit anybody. That's great to get all the accolades. What more accolades does a Joel Embiid need?
He needs a ring. He needs a ring. Is what he needs. That's the accolade he really needs, right?
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he's looking for individual, or
Sure.
people have to question his individual prowess, why? Well, like, what more does he need to show?
If it's not for a ring, what do you do? Keith Pompey was asked about that. I hate that the whole second round thing came up twice in that answer. And I know Keith's just being thorough.
Sure.
But it's like you're setting such a low bar of, do you go and make a move? Do you go and throw assets on the table in order to go get a second round victory? Really? Like, to me, if it's not about a ring, don't do it. Don't do it. If you don't think you can win a championship this year and Joel's not going to be healthy enough, don't do it.
Well, getting out of the second round means you're in the conference championship. So that's cool. Then you're at the point of, well, anything can happen, right? I would put
Somebody could turn an ankle on the other team.
yeah, anything. You could surprise it. You could get a quadruple doink that goes your way,
Right.
as opposed to the other way. So I understand if the feeling is, yeah, got to improve this team to get to the conference championship, because there anything can happen. This is. Yeah, as much as I told you guys when the first report came out, I was like, okay, this is all right. They're saying they're not going to know anything until tomorrow. Well, tomorrow came, and I don't think I like this a little bit.
It's a first Friday on the John Kincade Show, and we will have our live studio audience showing up in the next hour, and they will be provided breakfast by Ember Smokehouse and Tap in Chalfont, Pennsylvania, with smoked meats, comfort foods, cold brews, even though they won't have cold brews this morning.
What?
Visit EmberSmokehouseandTap.com. Yes. I don't want I said I'm going to have some of the class here today. I don't want them imbibing, in the middle of a thing. Temple would be very upset with me if I did that.
No, what they do away from the university has nothing to do with you.
Wait a minute. Hey, Embers, bring the keg. We'll tap a keg. We'll do something like that.
Look, there is never a bad time to have a keg flown. Never.
How about those broadcasts on St. Patty's Day? People are 6 a.m. in the morning having a good, cold brew.
If you're alive past me, John, if you so choose to come to my funeral, you will walk up, I will be in a casket, and there will be a keg next to me, and there will be a bunch of silo cups there.
That's awesome.
You grab one, you pour yourself a beer, you give me the thumbs up.
That'd be like one of the best funerals ever.
I'm not kidding you.
That would honestly be one of the best funerals
I've
ever.
already told Donna. I said, I'm not asking you. I'm like, I never do this, but I'm telling you that's what I want.
I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
If you have a thought on the Joel Embiid injury situation and more, and my big thing is, I don't trust Joel to make this decision. After the other night where he pushed himself to play when he probably shouldn't have been playing, I don't trust him that he's going to make the right call, and I think he's going to do it out of the right reasons. I think he's going to do it because he wants to be there for his teammates. He wants to do it. But what's the smart move? If you want to jump in, you can at 610-632-0975. We've got Flyers tickets to give away. We've got Sixers tickets to give away. And, of course, David Otto brings you every single edition of First Friday here on the John Kincade Show. That's where we'll get this day started here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Look, you know this at your own house. There are only 3 things that should be flushed down the toilet. Number 1, number 2,
Pennsylvania. No purchase necessary. $10 million prize pool to be split equally among all eligible participants who made the correct pick. Prize issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And congratulations on this first Friday morning to Tyrese Maxey on his appointment to the All-Star game. Absolutely awesome. Well-deserved. And then that 51 points last night that you heard right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. That wasn't bad either. That is a fantastic job.
That was cool.
Not as good as Tommy Cooney on bowling last night. Or Bob Cooney.
How about that? Nah, forget
bowling
about
last
Bob.
night. I mean,
yeah, Tommy, my son, career high, 141 last night in our bowling league.
There you go.
Kicked ass. Our team was on fire, Pat. On fire.
How's that supposed to make the other team feel if they're listening?
Don't care. See, we only had 4 bowlers last night. Normally it's a team of 5. We were so good in game 1, even though we only had 4 bowlers, we outscored every other.
And, wait a minute, did they let somebody bowl twice?
No, we only went with 4, and then you're going to add in an average there, whatever, but it doesn't matter. We were that good.
And, like, the trolls online will sit there and act like, this show isn't filled with athletic freaks.
I mean, seriously.
Right?
Like, freaks.
Come on.
He bowled a 141.
Yeah, you're out here averaging
That's
the 4.
really-
Like, you're averaging, like, 171.
I did average a 171.
I want to go bowling.
Yeah.
I like, and
You
my buddy,
can.
my
You
buddy
can do
Joe-
that in this country.
You're allowed,
to
I know.
do it.
My buddy Joe suggested last time we talked about it. He said, "Let's get my nephews together and everything. Let's go bowling." So I think we're gonna try to get out there and go bowling.
Oh, it's so much
So
fun.
we'll have a little fun with that.
Yeah.
So we got the word on the Joel Embiid injury yesterday. And one of the other things that Keith Pompey talked about is there might be an idea about going and getting somebody in the trade market. And I wondered if it was somebody that Pat Egan was also eyeing up. Let's listen. Pat, was that the former Sixer that you were potentially eyeing up?
I'm going to apologize to the best show ever. I did not listen to that interview. Yeah, that was it.
No, but it's a great suggestion.
It makes a lot of sense. He was already in the organization. He's very affordable. I think his salary is like $3.6 million. He's on the last year of his deal. He's having a great season. Rebounding was a big problem for them last night. They were getting crushed on the offensive side of the boards. I don't really like a small lineup with Paul Reed at the center. I don't also like Mo Bamba as a starter. So it makes a lot of sense to go out there and get an Andre Drummond from a team that will be selling. The Chicago Bulls are nothing. But, yeah, I was sitting last night watching the game when I got home and was like, damn, this team could really, really use Andre Drummond. It becomes obvious when they're getting out-rebounded like crazy. Like, yeah, who's really good at rebounding? Oh, yeah, that guy that we used to have. But that was the name. So me and Keith.
No, you and Keith are on the
Pat, now it
it's
just
you.
looks like I'm just stealing names from Keith. So let me go with a former Sixer center and Andrew Bogut. Go out and get Andrew Bogut.
I don't
I'll
want
just be
Andrew
different
Bogut.
now.
How about Dwight Howard?
No,
No, he's
Where is
balling
Dwight,
out.
by the way?
Philippines.
Yes.
Balling out in the Philippines.
No, he's not.
Yes,
Killing
he
it.
is.
Yes, he is.
Wait a minute.
Yes,
Can you
he
get
is.
him? Could you get Dwight Howard from the Philippines?
I mean, I'm sure
don't
you
know.
could.
You have to
but
buy
yeah,
him
you
out of a
probably
team in the
could, but-
Philippines?
Yeah, I mean, but
mean,
like
here's-
you factor in the conversion rate, and you're basically paying like $100 and an Embers gift card.
Well, here's the major problem, and as much as you're right, you're watching that game last night, and you're like, oh my God, this team can't. They can't rebound very well when Embiid's in there. Also, their
Yeah.
rebounding is a crutch of theirs. So now, what are you doing? You're looking to replace an Embiid, so hoping you can go like what 500 for the rest of the season if you don't have him, and therefore get into the playoffs, and then maybe he comes back. Man, talk about putting your finger in a dike. Like it's just.
What? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
DC,
I
come
got.
on.
I gotta stop you there, Chief. Can we use another?
Well, you know what?
Can
the
we
town
use
to
another
flood, you know what the
example?
town-
Can we use another example,
You know what?
please?
The town to flood.
I mean,
So-
there's a lot of people out there that
When
are
you're
getting
talking-
visuals.
When you're talking making trades going into the trade deadline, it was to try to get this team over the top of, getting into the Eastern Conference Finals, trying to get into a championship run. Now you're talking about trying to get a backup for Joel Embiid. Like that's
Well,
I understand the frustration of fans. Like
Well,
that just sucks right now.
okay, it does.
Did
but
I clear the room on my left?
yeah,
think
I mean, at this
everybody's
point, everybody's
not to laugh
everybody's
out
leaving.
loud.
Yeah, it's like you're talking about fingers and Kincade show after dark. Look, they needed a backup probably anyway for center because they barely use Mo Bamba. They barely use that guy.
You're gonna
And
barely use anybody though.
But in this situation, you're a better team with a $3.6 million salary cap hit and Andre Drummond, who probably won't cost you much. Andre Drummond, I think, can also win you a first-round series. Like, he won't be a liability out there when you get in the first round and you're playing, a six-seeded team where you're going to be like, damn, they really need Joel in this one.
that this is the year you go all in because it could damage you going forward.
Yeah, and that's where you go now. You're talking about a 29-year-old Joel Embiid. Do you look every year now? Probably with him, you're going to have to say it's time to go all in. If you're going to get a championship, it's getting to that point. It's not, oh yeah, you can wait a year, or oh, don't do it. So that's on one end of the spectrum. The other end, you're right, John. Like, oh shoot, we have a lot of assets here. Do you spend it on trying to do something more this year, even though he might not be 100%? How do you play it out? It's a conundrum, and it's why Daryl Morey makes a lot of money making the decisions he does. We'll have to see today. Maybe it's a thing where they say, look, 2 weeks of rest and we think he might be good, or 2 weeks and we'll evaluate him then, which means, in layman's terms, in 2 weeks we'll see if he can start doing some basketball activities.
Yeah,
I'm terrified of that.
I know,
Because
right?
we've been down that road so many times.
Dude, I cringe when I just say it because I heard
Yeah.
it so many times.
2 to 3 weeks. We'll reevaluate in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah,
No, can't
and
do
then
that.
Basketball activity.
Yep.
Well,
Yep,
you can't
yep.
get on the floor until he has,
Yep.
a week of
Doing
basketball
some
activity.
shooting and light running.
And
Yeah.
we use the
Surgery for it. Right, doesn't matter. We're hit. Yeah.
well. I've got
Groundhog Day.
something to make you smile this morning. So every single few times a week, I've been trying to give you something positive on the Eagles. Something that just says, okay, get away from all the negative talk about the Eagles. Let's get to something positive. The strength of schedule composite for next season, which last year did end up screwing over the Eagles. The Eagles had a really, really difficult strength of schedule heading at them, and then it ended up being a very, very difficult strength of schedule. Things changed. Next year, tied for 21st. Only 8 teams in the NFL will have an easier schedule than the Eagles. So there's your smile for the morning. Next year, your schedule is going to be you're playing. And this year, the strength of schedule from preseason to postseason was the closest it's been in 10 years of tracking. Just a 10-year study. I read a piece yesterday, and it was it's the best. It was the closest to it. So if you're looking at it, next year's terrain schedule looks a lot easier. There's your positive. I'm trying to find something positive. That's it.
Yeah.
You're playing one of the toughest schedules this year. Next year, you are playing. Only 8 teams in the NFL will play an easier schedule than you will. So there's your positive of the day. That doesn't do anything for Bob Cooney.
Not
It's a
even little
glazed
bit.
over.
No.
Nah.
Look, they could have played the top 10 college teams at the end of the year last year, and they would have gone 1-9.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, it really. I mean, it doesn't matter.
It felt
who the
that. It did feel that
opposition
way.
is.
Yes.
If you're not doing anything, yeah. I mean, that's good. All right, good.
They have 8
guess.
teams have an
Sure.
8 teams have an easier schedule than the Eagles.
But-
it does not. Come on, Pat. I'm expecting at
Nothing.
least a smirk out of you.
Nothing.
Glimmer.
Nope.
Nothing.
No, I mean, look, to me, to break down the schedule in February, a week before the Super Bowl, that's depressing to me.
I just try to give you something. To smile.
No, I appreciate it, and this is a me problem, and I gotta look inward. But
No, I don't think it is.
I mean, that's where we're at. It's like a reminder of, oh, by the way, a year ago you were talking about a game, and now
Right.
you're talking about games that won't happen for 9 months.
Well, also this
Yeah, it sucks.
this Fanatic
does.
Friday is presented by Pump Man Philly. There we go. 24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement. Count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. I got more good news for you if you're an Eagles fan. The Washington Commanders just hired a younger version of Ron Rivera, the last guy that they had. Players coach, very, positive guy. Coach Dan Quinn, who has taken over the Commanders, got to know him fairly well. Nice man, really, really nice man, and well loved by his players. But as a coach, I feel very, very comfortable with Washington making the choice to go with Dan Quinn. He knows nothing when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. Nothing. And totally tosses the keys to his offensive coordinator. That's where Kyle Shanahan was allowed to blow a Super Bowl up 28-3. He doesn't intervene. He knows his limitations is what he would how he would depict it. I am very, very happy with this. They're going to draft a young quarterback. They're going to get started all over. And Dan Quinn will make them a better franchise. I do believe he'll make them a better franchise in the short term, but I don't believe Dan Quinn will end up being a big-time answer.
Well, how do you like him on the defensive side of the ball?
I like him.
Okay.
The one thing is I know this. His players play hard for him. His players like coming to work. Dan Quinn's players, he builds a sort of what we hear about Nick Sirianni. His players like playing for him and enjoy the work culture. He's a great culture builder. We called him Coach Bro because he's like the bumper sticker guy. He's a more football version of Sirianni.
So if they hold on to Eric Bieniemy, and he's a really good defensive guy, and he'll throw the keys to your offensive guy, and that offensive guy is Eric Bieniemy.
I'm not feeling terrible about it.
If I'm Philadelphia and that happened, I wouldn't feel bad about that. No.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad thing if you went that route. Pat does nothing for you. Does that not even put a smile on your face?
I had the same thought as Bob. Like, I like the fact that he's sitting there going like, yeah, I don't really know anything about offense, so you take it from here. It all depends on their OC. I mean, Eric Bieniemy. Yeah, the Eric Bieniemy stuff.
The best in the business.
Yeah, you're handing him a new quarterback that he can work with.
Right.
First part of the audience is showing up.
By the way, I'm never worried about the Washington Commanders. Like, they're the Mets. Like, they're cute.
So you do not
they're adorable.
You never worry about the Commanders.
They try in the regular season, and it's adorable. But until they actually show me something, like, I'm not going to be worried about the Commanders.
Not even a glimpse.
No, they're like the guy that you let your girlfriend hang out with, and you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, go ahead. He's no threat. That's the Commanders. That's the Mets.
Oh, look at the confidence in you.
That's right. Throwing it on the table, Bobby. Let us drag.
So you'd
go
be
ahead,
like,
bro, you go hang with that guy.
Yeah, go hang. I'll be right
he
here.
ain't me.
You're calling me up at 1 a.m.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know
can
what's
see
up.
the prize package you have right here in Pat
I mean,
Egan.
seriously.
I'm an Adonis.
Okay, the early audience arrivals
a room
have
full
shown
of
up,
guys.
and they ushered in like they were going to jury duty, or like they were coming in late to mass.
Yeah, more crisis actors.
I think they're coming in late to mass. They don't want to make any noise that draw any attention to themselves. Here
I'm all
as they
about
come in
that.
the first arrivals.
Yeah,
they'll have a great breakfast this morning, which will be a lot of fun. Thanks to Embers Smokehouse
I
and
see
Tab.
some people doing some stuff over there.
Already?
Oh, look.
The
they're
Embers
getting
folks,
yeah.
they're already
They
getting in
are,
on it, the
yes.
Embers folks.
All
What's
right.
good about the early arrivals is they will be able to get first shot at the Embers foods, the comfort foods. There are no cold brews, though.
Why do you keep saying that?
Yeah,
Well, there's just not, because
Like
I
why?
don't
No.
want – some of my students have already arrived. I do not want Dean Boardman sending me a text going,
I don't
are
give
you
a
getting
flying
players
crap
drunk?
about Dean Boardman.
Yeah, like,
Today's
what are you
about
doing?
Bob Cooney. If they want to bring in beers, screw Dean Boardman. Or
Wait, what is that? What?
Eventually, you got to let the kids like live their lives.
Well, I do.
It doesn't seem like it.
I do. That's why you can –
You have no faith in them not
They're
to
with
drink.
Uncle Bob today. Get out of here, Professor John. They're with Uncle Bob. We got this.
They don't have to call me professor. It's just John. Just John. Because I'm not one of these teacher types. I mean, none of that stuff.
Yeah, I agree with
Can't have that.
Yeah, we're not gonna argue there.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
have that.
I mean,
There's none of that.
We haven't learned anything from you.
So we find out that Joel Embiid's out, but we don't know how long. So we sit in that like sort of limbo zone as we wait for that news. I try to get the boys excited about the fact that the Commanders hired the wrong coach for the long term, even though they will be better. I believe they've hired the wrong coach, and then the strength of schedule comes out, and it does nothing to even put a crack of a smile on the faces of Bob Cooney or Pat Egan this morning. And I get it, because a year ago we were finalizing our plans to get on the plane and to go out to Arizona and to watch the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So I get it. There's a malaise that is going into this weekend, and it's that weekend before the Super Bowl, and we thought we'd be heading to Las Vegas.
Strength of schedule now is equivalent to doing wins and losses now.
Well, It's
No,
it isn't.
Yep.
You wanna
No,
do
but
it?
it isn't though.
Yeah.
It's who your
I
opponents
think they
are that you're
split against
facing.
The Cowboys.
Week 1 win.
A week. Well, you don't know who your week 1 opponent.
Doesn't matter. They
Doesn't matter.
roll.
So you're just saying they roll week 1.
Roll to
Yeah.
victory. Week
just-
2, I'm worried about though.
Is it week 2?
I'll tell you what, that's a tough one.
What? Who do you expect? Yeah, it's well. You can already check the Phillies schedule and see if they'll open at home.
Oh,
I
we
haven't.
can do one
I
loss
haven't
Phillies
done.
schedule.
I haven't done that yet. Yeah, the Phillies schedule. You'll do the one loss a little bit later.
162.
A little bit later on. There is a staggering number on Patrick Mahomes, and that will get you believing that the Chiefs, if you can get the points and the Chiefs, you might want to do it this morning. We'll talk about that and more. We got a live audience here with us too. They can clap. They can say hello. They can tell you that they're
They
here.
can boo.
There they are. No, they're here.
They
They're
can
here.
boo, they can throw
They haven't
stuff.
been fed yet. It's a Fanatic First Friday on the John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. I love the Bet Park Sportsbook app. I really enjoy it because I know that even on a day where I think Ivy League basketball is the only thing that's sort of headlining today, I know my Bet Parks app has other things that can occupy my time. If I had a doctor's appointment today, and thankfully I don't, I could be enjoying even if it is, it's very similar to the nightlife in Tampa. No, really it isn't. All right, we got a live audience with us here. It's a Fanatic First Friday presented by David Auto, and we appreciate you being a part of it. Embers has already got the food going out. The coffee's going to be out, and I'm going to suggest to our audience that they slip out at some point and grab something to eat when it is open. Pat, were you inspecting?
Yeah.
And what did you see?
Food.
Really good food?
Yeah, no, it looked good.
It looks
looked
good?
Yeah.
Looks really, really
I didn't
good?
want to get too involved. They were setting it up, but yeah.
So
it
you're
looked
trying
really
to stay
good.
out of their way a little
Yeah,
bit.
I don't feel like costing myself a plate, so I just said hi and popped out.
Bob, you did not have your coffee thing this morning. So did you? Are you waiting
I
for?
didn't. I
shows.
forgot my coffee today. I am waiting for them to set it up. Yes. 'Cause,
So it'll
How'd you
all be
forget?
part
the
of
day
this.
doesn't start until the coffee flows, Pat,
You forgot your coffee thing?
or until you put the finger in the dike.
He thought about that one.
I
Dude,
just don't
what is up
understand-
with you? Are you this deprived?
No, I just don't understand. Like
It's
that
like
is a
Howard's-
common saying.
It's in the 50s. It was a common
okay,
saying.
wait.
Now,
I'm
if you
gonna-
get a
now-
porn
now-
hub,
That's
it's a
when I
common
grew
saying.
up.
Now wait a minute. Now, Bob, I'm going to tell you this. It is absolutely a common saying for most pop-ups out there. But it is like for my students had no idea what you were speaking of. They thought it was something naughty. So I
that's
mean,
what
it was.
we
They
said.
thought it was on one of those websites they go to, like Lobster Tube.
They thought it was something really bad.
Or
So-
LobsterTube.com.
And then, so there's another one is that I have a friend of mine in the business who used to host Sports Center, and he once used a term that was very common for our parents, for us, and everything about armor. And I'm not repeating it because it got him suspended. About a suit of armor, something in line of sports, and he used it and got suspended for a month without pay for just using it. A common saying because of everybody is so damn offended about everything.
Oh man,
So
so
it
many
was-
things
yeah.
I could say right now, but
Yeah.
our bosses are showing up today, so
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
don't want
going
that.
to.
You don't want that. I got a number for you right now. That if you want to grab your BetParks app or your Sporting Bets app of choice. This is a fantastic number on Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, is 14-3 in the playoffs. So he's already a huge, huge winner in the playoffs. But this might get you jumping on board if you think that the points that the Chiefs are being offered right now is never going to get higher. Patrick Mahomes has been an underdog 13 times. The last 13 times he's been an underdog, he has covered the spread 12 out of 13 times. Now, there is the chance that this line could shift or become even before the time the game kicks off. But today, if you wanted to grab points with Patrick Mahomes, 13 times as an underdog, 12-1 in those last 13 games. Does that sway you in any way, Bob? Because I think I'm leaning 49ers because I believe they've been clearly the best team over the course of the entire season. I mean, the Chiefs ended up with the same record as the Eagles and managed to lose 4 home games this year too, which was also in and of itself a little bit crazy. But a 14-3 number in the playoffs and a 12-1 number in just underdog games tells me a lot about Mahomes and their chances.
Yeah, if you're kind of an outsider looking in and you don't know much about the Kansas City Chiefs or much about the 49ers, and somebody asks you, well, where would you lean? I would lean towards, all right, what team has the better quarterback, right? I mean, that's kind of, I don't want to say common sense, but it's common sense-ish that I would go towards the better quarterback, and I would without a doubt say that I would take Patrick Mahomes over Brock Purdy, especially Purdy playing his first Super Bowl and all that stuff. So, yeah, I would lean towards that. It is amazing. I don't know if you guys heard this before the playoffs started, but Patrick Mahomes playing his first away playoff game.
That was wild.
That's crazy to me. And he went and did it in Baltimore and went and won the
Buffalo
game.
and Buffalo too.
Or Buffalo.
Remember,
I'm
he did
sorry,
Buffalo,
yeah.
then he did Baltimore.
Yeah, but that was crazy to me. A guy that has a Super Bowl under his belt, a guy that is, has been in the league and in playoffs for so long, that he's dominated that much that he's always playing at home. So for them to go on the road and get victories like that, my God, that ups what Patrick Mahomes is to me. I haven't decided yet. We still have another week. I
Sure we
haven't
do.
decided who I like yet in this game. But like I said, first thought is always I'll go with the better quarterback.
Pat, have you picked a side yet, or do you like to wait?
Yeah, I'll go with Chiefs. Same reasoning as Bob. They have the better quarterback. Patrick Mahomes has done it before. He's been there. And for the Chiefs, it's for the 49ers, I feel like it's a lot like the Sixers getting past the second round. For them, it was getting in the Super Bowl. Not that they can't win, but
They were there 4 years ago, but it was Garoppolo. It was
Yeah, it wasn't-
It was a whole different vibe.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Chiefs know what it takes. Chiefs have the better quarterback. I'll go them. Although the 49ers are loaded. They're a very good team.
I personally just do not want
Breaking
to see
news
them.
there, Bobby.
I do
breaking
not
news.
want to see them win.
No, I don't.
I-
I don't want to see either of these teams win.
Yeah,
It's gross.
I'd be fine if we ended in a tie. Karate Mark's in the house, so that's
do you-
always good.
I want to ask the guys that we have here in the audience. We don't have any girls yet. The guys in the audience. Do you care who wins? Do you have a rooting interest? Because we had this discussion yesterday, and John was like, I gotta watch a game with a rooting interest, which is cool, which is great. I'm obsessed with how people watch games. I don't care about rooting interest. I just want to see the game. Pat is more on the lines of John, of like, yeah, I need something to kind of either root for or root against in order to. Do you guys just watch the game to watch the game?
It seems like there's some shaking
Yeah.
heads.
Yeah,
I can't just
kinda
watch
mixed.
a game to watch a game.
I need like some stake in it. I need a fantasy angle. I need money on the line or something. I can't. I'm not just watching
You can't just watch a football
can't-
game.
what game? Describe the game to
the
us.
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
The
That's what you
Super
need.
Bowl, yes.
Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl,
watch it.
yes.
It has super in the title.
Yeah, and
means it's
we've
gonna
never
be good.
we've never been let down by that.
No.
Exactly.
So no, Super Bowl, yes, but I need like a rooting interest in the sense of like it makes it better for me.
Okay.
But I can't watch two bad teams. Like
Well,
when
you're
we-
not.
But when I'm saying like you're painting the picture of like I can watch any football game. Yeah, you can. But when you're watching New England versus Atlanta, that's a gross game no matter what.
But it was a great game.
Well, it ends up,
you know what I mean?
ends
It
being
ended up
great,
being a
but
great
like
game.
it's still a gross game. No, no matter Desmond
The
Ritter.
hype of it.
Desmond Ritter versus Mac Jones is no
He's
one.
talking
No
about
one
this
deserves
year.
to talk about.
oh.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was talking about this
Okay.
year's because that was a gross game that I watched, and I had to make a wager on the game just to like get myself through it. It's like you, Bob. Like you have to take some sips out of your flask before you come in here to deal with us.
Sips, gulps.
Okay, I didn't want to put you on blast like that, but
That's all right.
yeah. So it's
Just being
very
honest.
similar. Like to get through bad football games and bad sports sometimes. Yeah, I need a rooting interest and something to cheer for. Super Bowl is different, but in this instance, they're just unlikable. Like the 49ers are unlikable and the Chiefs are annoying.
Really?
Yeah, Chiefs are annoying as hell.
How about
Chiefs are
that? Okay.
annoying. You don't find the Chiefs annoying?
I don't know.
But I'll tell you right now, like your rooting interest is you like Spags. You know him
No,
personally.
it's not.
So you won't really you're not going to root for him to have success.
I don't have any rooting interest. I just want to see a football game.
You
and
don't know
seems
it, but
like
you
it's
do.
Two best teams.
No, you know it. You do
Pat,
have
I
it.
know. I know my feelings.
No, I don't think you do.
I think I do.
I know you better than you know yourself, and you're cheering
foolish.
for. You're cheering. Well, okay, go ahead.
No.
Why don't you
I
put
did
fingers?
That last
Why don't you
Friday.
put fingers somewhere there, bud?
It's just look. It's as I'm just wondering too with San Francisco because it seems like we always hear the term Super Bowl hangover. It's the Super Bowl hangover. Strangely enough, teams that win Super Bowls don't tend to have a Super Bowl hangover. It's only the team that loses the Super Bowl that tends to have a Super Bowl hangover. Because we talked all year long, and there were people who called this radio station think, well, it's the Super Bowl hangover year for the Eagles. Really? The Chiefs are going to Vegas. They're going to be checking. They're going to be checking into the freaking Bellagio.
They're going to
and
Circus
the Eagles
Circus.
have been done. No,
Stop.
they can't go to Circus.
That's where they're going.
No, they're chalk body outlines.
trouble-
on the floor.
they had
at
trouble
Circus
getting rooms.
Circus. So they had trouble.
Yeah.
Because they didn't book the
They were
room.
gonna go.
Andy didn't think they were
They were
going.
gonna go to Sweets America wherever
Oh
we went,
man,
but
I'm sure.
ended
No, but
up in
it's-
Circus Circus.
But it is the Chiefs didn't have a Super Bowl hangover, and they won it. And then people are like, yeah, well, it's really hard to get back to the Super Bowl. Bull crap it is. The Patriots showed you over and over
I
again
think those
that
are
it's not.
dynasties. That's an anomaly. I disagree. Look at the champions. Like, dynasties, it's not hard. And we talked about this the other day. I made the analogy of drunks. Drunks don't get hangovers because they're drunk all the time. The Chiefs don't get a Super Bowl hangover because they're in the Super Bowl all the time. Either did New England. But that's I think those are anomalies, don't you, John? Like, because you win a Super Bowl, I don't know. Is it common to go back or get
Well,
close the next year?
Okay, Eagles beat New England, win the Super Bowl. New England goes back the next year, wins the Super Bowl. Rams lose that Super Bowl, and a couple years later, the Rams win a Super Bowl. They stay right there in the mix. This precipitous drop off, it happened to Tampa Bay because Tom Brady was pretty much, it seemed like more of a shell of himself at the end. Cincinnati didn't. It's been a battle of injuries as to why they don't come back. To me, it's like a built-in excuse. It's like something people say. There was no reason for the Eagles to have a Super Bowl hangover this year. None at all. Should that have been that? Unless you're telling me it's some psychological thing that you can't define for me, that nobody can define for me, and it's just something that you think or something that you feel. The Eagles had if not the most loaded roster, one of them in the NFC, and they ended up wetting their pants. I mean, just finding that
Because they were hungover.
We thought that could be. We thought that the roster was so great,
Yeah.
and until we found out that it wasn't.
Look, it's hard. I mean, you talk to any GM, player, coach in the league, it's hard to get to a Super Bowl. So many things have to break your way. The Eagles were playing badly when they went to the Super Bowl against Kansas City last year. The last 4 weeks of the season, they were bad. And watching the Kelsey documentary like I did the other night, you hear the announcers going, they need a game today to restore their confidence. And that was the first playoff game against the Giants. Playoff hangovers, I don't know how to define. I think culture. I think those dynasties. Those are the teams that go back. I think
You mean teams that keep their coaching staff intact for the
New
most part,
England,
things like that.
Kansas City. Those are dynasties. Those are cultured organizations that know how to get back. But you don't find it all that often. I don't think. Look at Philadelphia. We talked about Howie Roseman yesterday coming out and saying, well, let's not forget the linebackers were good. We've been to 2 of the last 6 Super Bowls. Oh, okay. You're bragging on 2 of 6, which is great.
Well, it's really 2 of 7, Howie.
Now
by the
it's
way.
2 of 7.
Yes.
Yeah, like 2 of 7. You won 1. Is that an anomaly or is that the norm? No, it's really hard to get back there. And I don't know if, to get back to the hangover point, there might be something to that. Long season, you're done 2 months after most of the league is done, so you're playing that much longer. I don't know. It's a great question, and you'd have to really dive in to see who has been back, who hasn't been back. But I do think there's something there of getting there. It's really hard to get back to next year.
I just don't know why. I tend to, when things go well for you in life, I would think that's the time that you ascend. Because you have a mental you have a mental place where you go, okay, I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to win. I know what it took to win. I know what kind of things that you then move the bar up. You then move the bar up of expectation. If the Eagles had lost a 28-27 game at Detroit in the divisional round, I honestly wouldn't have been that pissed off. But the idea of seeing them the way they went out with a whimper, I don't want to say quit, but it certainly looked like Troy Aikman pretty much said it. He said, it looks like you have 2 sides of the ball that are disinterested to be here in a playoff game, and it was 3-0. That is the biggest indictment I could ever hear on a team. I have no idea what causes, where disappointment causes people to become unprofessional. And that's my biggest disgust with this year's Eagles team, is that when Troy Aikman said it best, they don't even look like they want to be here. They're disinterested. In a 3-0 playoff game before Tampa even had a second score, that disgusts me. And and there's no excuse for it.
No, I mean, when we look down the line years to come and say, yeah, that was a team that started 10-1 and they lost in the first round of the playoffs, we're not going to feel that angst that we do now. Like, oh my God, look how bad it got. But look at the year after they won the Super Bowl. They go to New Orleans, have a chance, and Alshon Jeffrey drops a pass.
And if they hadn't gotten the double doink, they don't even get to that game.
Exactly. So it's just, like, to me, that's the definition of sports. You just don't know. That's why dynasties are so rare. That's why getting back to Super Bowls is an anomaly, because it's just so hard.
Was last year a fluke, Pat?
I don't
Could that
think
come
it was
into it
a
at all?
fluke.
That maybe last year was sort of a fluky year. You had an easier schedule.
Yeah.
Things broke your way.
No, I don't think it was a fluke. Now, part of that is I don't want to believe it was a fluke because that's depressing. But no, I don't think. I think they were so poorly coached this year. Like from the top down. Like what team fires both offensive and defensive coordinators and then comes out and says,
Crappy team.
Our coach can't. He can't articulate like what he does for a job. He just says I'm the head coach. They were just poorly coached to me. And I know that there's the professionalism angle of why they quit and stuff, but it's got to be frustrating when you as a player know what the problem is and the bosses just won't listen. And
That's it in a nutshell.
Like
there.
you come in pumped up on a Monday for a game plan against Tampa, and it's like, all right, kids, sit down. We got bubble screens to study. I would have been like, dude, again, really? Like this is what we're doing? Bubble screens?
I get what you're saying. So you're telling me Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, veterans like Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, you mean to tell me they don't have voice boxes?
They
That
do.
if they're sitting in there that they can't say, this is crap.
They do.
What are you doing? Why are we going with it?
And they might not listen to him because Brian Johnson's the greatest offensive mind we've ever seen.
But
in the
why
game.
would they then support the head coach if he wasn't listening?
Because he's the head coach currently. Like they're not going to throw him under the bus now. They got to deal with him. They got to see him at OTAs and whatnot. But you can't tell me that they're pumped about it. I mean, with the fact that we are going into a season and we have no idea what the head coach does, first time in my lifetime. Like any sport, you could tell me what every coach did, and this guy just goes, "Yeah, well, I'm the head coach."
Yeah, they're not baseball managers. Which a lot of time you don't know what a baseball manager
But
does.
like, I mean, you could see them at least like going through stuff and looking at the lineup cards and making decisions and whatnot.
And you see their fingerprints on it.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Nick Sirianni, other than getting coffee for some disgruntled fans outside, I don't know what he does.
Well,
that's a
that was
disappointing thing.
nice.
That's what?
It was kind of him.
No, it was nice, but
was a kind gesture
keep in
to
mind
go
that
get
was like
coffee
what?
for
That was
people.
when they were 10-1. When it started really, spiraling out of control. He stopped getting coffee, which was rude of him.
No. That was when, remember, they had lost the 2 games. They had lost to San Francisco and Dallas. And then that website said, we need to show our team that we love them.
Well, we
so
do.
let's show up and show them we love them.
I do love him.
We do. And we do. But
do.
you know what, though?
I just
When you
don't love
put
the
up
head
2
coach.
clunkers like that, I'm sorry. Show me that you are what you are expected to be. Enough of this Trey Turner standing ovation crap. It
worked,
is
though.
enough.
That worked.
Enough. No, it did. Well, it worked
did
until
work.
it worked until it didn't.
It worked. Well, I mean,
Until it did.
they were
Everything works until it
Yeah,
doesn't.
So
exactly.
the standing
Just
ovation
ask my
wears
wife.
off after like 6-7
You
weeks.
just don't like the standing ovation, but
No,
you,
I don't.
you fail to admit that like it turned his season around.
Until we
Trey
needed
Turner was
until
not
we
the
needed
reason.
him most.
Trey Turner wasn't the reason they lost that series.
The Arizona series, he was anonymous in that.
Stop. Nick Castellanos went
he was terrible.
for a million
32.
in that series. The pitching didn't show up. They lost to Brandon friggin' Fott. This was not Trey Turner and his standing ovation.
Trey Turner and Bryce Harper, none to be heard of in Game 6 and Game 7 at home.
But that's
And you
baseball.
witnessed it. You
Yeah,
sat
I
there.
did. But that's
And you sat
baseball. Like
there.
3-game series. Sometimes you just don't show up. There's weeks on this job where I don't show up. Like I'm here physically.
Well, that is the truth.
And they're seeing it now. Like
make
the
a good
audience
point.
is seeing it. Like I'm here physically.
You make a good
But
point.
like performance-wise, there's some people raising eyebrows and whatnot.
That's what she said.
the
What?
idea,
No, stop. Put it in your
the
pants.
idea you're Bob's just playing
Bob's
it blue.
all horned
Bob's
up
playing
today.
it blue this
All
morning
horned
for the
up.
live studio audience.
Bob
Wow,
needs a
great.
blue chew.
See, I don't think he does. I think that would actually
Promo
be
code
dangerous
Fanatic.
if that happened. So, hey, the 7 a.m. hour is brought to you by the Bet Parks app. I tried to give you a little pointer there if you want to get in early on that one. Sportsbook and casino on sleek, easy to use app in Pennsylvania and Jersey. If I told you today you could get the Chiefs +2, what do you think the line will be when the game kicks off?
Probably around the same.
So you don't?
Yeah,
you think
I
it'll
don't-
fairly?
I-
You think
I-
it'll
I
fairly
think-
hold?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good line. I do like that one.
I go 1.
You think it'll
probably.
come down to 1?
Yeah.
What did last year's game close at? Was it 1.5
No idea.
or something with the Eagles as an
I
under?
thought the Eagles were getting like 2 or 3, but I could be wrong. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, it was
I don't know.
it just is. It's weird because Pat, you talked about bad Super Bowls, like things letting you down. You're too young to remember the era where the Super Bowl for around a 15-year period was a 2 or 3 score loss. It seemed like every year by somebody. The games were terrible. These Super Bowls have been for like a decade have been great.
Yeah, I mean the only, the
Seahawks, Broncos,
Seahawks,
last one
that was
I
a
remember.
blowout.
And that's 11 years ago.
Well, the Patriots Rams one was
10-3.
Oh, that was horrible.
That was terrible.
That was so gross.
You didn't have to witness it in person.
I didn't,
Terrible.
but I mean, Tony Romo just falling over himself to give so much credit and put Julian Edelman in the Super Bowl MVP race was great. Love that.
If Gronk doesn't catch that ball too, it may have gone to overtime 3-3. I mean, that was terrible.
Yeah, that game sucked. But for the most part, yeah, the Super Bowls are usually pretty good.
All right, Jim Curtin's going to join us from your Philadelphia Union as we get ready to. Maybe there's a silver lining there in the Union getting ready to embark on another campaign. We got Phillies action coming up in around month and a half, 2 months, like pretty much 8 weeks to Phillies opening day. So things are coming together there. And, of course, we'll try to find you every silver lining we can on that Joel Embiid story you hear on your flagship station of the Philadelphia 76ers. So we'll talk to Jim coming up. John Kincade Show with a live studio audience here for Fanatic First Friday. And I want them to go get a chance to eat here on 97.5 The Fanatic. I can tell you that you want to clean up, and you want to get that cleanup project at your home taken care of. So what you need is the Bagster. It's absolutely And we are live back, our Fanatic First Friday, and we would give you a big crowd, clap. Well, we get a small clap because you know what everybody's doing? They're grabbing the food from Embers Smokehouse and Tap in Chalfont, Pennsylvania, with smoked meats, comfort foods, cold brews. Visit embersmokehouseandtap.com. Now, Pat, I need you to get the message to my students that are here today. They're like, this is pretty great. You know, you get breakfast catered when you do a morning radio show. Just so you know, guys, this is just like a once-a-month thing. Yeah. Embers does not get up in the morning and say, wow, we got to make sure we got the Kincade show fed. None of that.
No, I mean,
this is not, no.
We'd appreciate if they did. But,
special occasion.
But there's usually food to be found in radio.
Yes.
But for us personally, it's not like it's ours. Like, usually we'll have to kind of search around. Because there's with a bunch of radio stations in one group, somebody's getting food at some point. You might have to stick around after the show to find that meal. You know, we have people here that might tip people off.
You go over to Peter and Stan's studio over there at that popular FM station.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
go check out that.
Our buddy Matt Cord might get some. Who's to say?
Oh, he'll be here.
Candy Winters, her show, that country music show, always gets.
They might get some, you know.
They get a bunch of food.
Casey Boy has never missed a drop off of food down here.
No, he hasn't.
No, so it's there's usually free food somewhere, but for you personally, like, it's not happening every day.
I don't want to get Bob nervous, but HR is on site. After the first hour, when Bob decided to go a little blue, Pat, HR is now on site monitoring the show, and it is a Friday.
I do see.
So I'm just saying.
Stacy's
so hopefully that is not the case.
I can tell that Bobby's really worried about it too.
Yeah, Bob's really enjoying that.
Chomping down cantaloupe.
I'll tell you what, this is delicious.
Yeah, it is. It's great food, and we appreciate everybody, coming out and being here. Jim Curtin will be arriving. We'll have a chance to talk to the head man of the Philadelphia Union. And again, it just sort of plays to that, is that I would imagine they've had an interesting offseason as far as the expectations are. It seems like the expectations for the Union are always very similar to its championship or bust. It's high success or bust. And that's a credit to their organization.
Oh, yeah.
That they've created that if anything in any way creates a trip up, then everybody's wondering what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it's a great place to be, and it's a hard place to be. It's a great place to be where expectations are so high because of your previous success, and that's awesome. And Jim will expand on that when he gets here. It's also really hard because, yeah, it is kind of championship or bust now, right? And some people are looking at the Union, well, have they gotten to the hump and can't get over it, and now that, that train is sort of going backwards a little bit? I don't think so. I still think they're on the cusp of championships for the next couple of years. A lot of change going on that Jim will fill us in, but look, we all know soccer is something that everybody in this city kind of had to grow into. Well, they've grown into it.
Yeah, they've grown into it.
It is awesome going down to those games.
They kind of remind me of what this pains me to say, but what Villanova did for years. Whereas, like, a Duke would get the 5-star guy, right? So, like, Inter Miami gets Messi, and that steals the show. And the Union just build up their academy. They'll get some guy from, like, the 5th division of the Ukrainian league, and they sign him, and he becomes like a focal point and a star for the team. And they really, like, I don't want to say draft and develop. They did with Andre Blake, but they sign these guys, and they have a really good job of developing them into big, like, important pieces. And it's not like the flashy signing, like a Mikal Bridges, for example, or a bunch of those guys actually for Jay Wright. But you stay the course, and next thing you know, come national championship time, you've got a bunch of, like, vets in there that know what they're doing, and it's not just plug and play superstar who's probably well past his prime or whatnot. So they have a really good thing going with their front office. They know how to develop guys, that's for sure.
We have to answer something from Chris, one of our listeners, who says, loves the show, but feels that we hold the 76ers organization to a completely different standard than we do the Eagles. And he says, is there anything to do with the fact that we are the Sixers flagship that we do? Instead of a snarky answer on Twitter, I think it's something that you answer and you say, no, I don't. First of all, I don't think we hold the Sixers organization to a different standard, because I think overall discussion, coverage of the Sixers, discussion of it has been like really highly critical. When you get a fan base that says, and you get hosts that even will say, like, look, I can't. I can't get my hopes up till we see them get to the postseason, till we see them win in the second round. I don't think the Sixers get treated with kid gloves at all on this day. But if that's the perception of somebody, I want them to have a say and want it to be heard.
I don't either, but I can be bought.
You can be.
Yeah, if any of the teams are listening right now, I will be your mouthpiece for the right price. I have no problem.
How do they contact you?
I just, email.
Venmo?
Yeah,
like you and
Venmo.
waitresses?
Yeah. Just slide into the Venmo with a couple dollars, and I will defend every action you make.
So what was the emailer's name?
Is
I'm
it
sorry.
Chris?
Chris?
Chris is along the lines of he's along the lines of he goes and he says he loves the show. He listens to us every day, and he listens to this station a lot. But he says he thinks that we hold the Eagles to a different standard than we do the Sixers. That we make more excuses for the Sixers and their shortcomings than we are willing to do for the Eagles and their shortcomings. I think we're very critical of all of them myself.
Yeah, like I've said before, like I try to have a foundation of truth, so therefore I don't have to make stuff up in my head. It's what I truly believe. What I say about the Sixers-Eagles is what I truly believe. Excuses for the Sixers? Do we hold the Eagles to a higher standard? Yeah, because they're closer to the pinnacle than the Sixers. So sure we do. Do we make excuses for the Sixers because we're their flagship? I don't feel that way.
Well, people might hear us, like, for example, like for me, I will constantly point out when they struggle to get out of the second round, well, Joel Embiid's never healthy. He's always dealing with something, broken face, torn ligaments, torn meniscuses. There's always something to deal with. So when Stan Van Gundy on national television points out his bad playoff numbers, I'm like, Stan, you sound like an idiot right now because he's not healthy. But some people might go, well, that's an excuse. Like you're making an excuse for the team.
I know I heard yesterday on the station from two different callers on two different shows talking about the idea of, well, look at how Joel Embiid gets beat up in today's NBA. Look at this. Like, I mean, it's unprecedented the way he gets beaten up. And I was like, okay, this caller, and I'm hearing the caller speak, and I'm going, okay, you're in your 20s. Or you're in your early 30s, because you obviously did not watch a lot of NBA basketball, because this is a soft NBA compared to what the NBA used to be 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. If Joel Embiid can't physically hack it in this NBA, he never would have survived in the old NBA, which was nasty. I mean, it was those Pat Riley teams that were terrible, Knick teams, like winning 83, 81 and stuff like that, just fouling everybody. It was ugly basketball. The Detroit Pistons.
Oh, yeah, Bill
was
Laimbeer,
terrible.
Charles Oakley, you had, Rick Mahorn. Those guys, a lot of them, and not specifically those guys, but there was a lot of guys that stayed in the league simply because they could play physical brand of basketball. And I don't mean they were good basketball players at all. It's weird. Physically, what you said, John, it kind of made my ears stick up a little bit. Physically, Joel Embiid could play in any era of the NBA.
Yes.
I mean,
would he hold up, though?
It's weird. His body doesn't hold up to basketball.
No.
I don't think it matters if it's physical basketball. Think of his injuries. A knee, a foot. Now, the broken faces, yeah, those were causes by, physically getting hit. But a lot of his injuries aren't him against physical players. It's him against himself. It's him falling. It's him coming down wrong. It's him tearing a meniscus. It's him, hurting a shoulder, doing something. Like, yeah, it's just, like we all know in here. All right, a lot of us probably have kids, or you're still kids. You guys know kids that just always seem to get hurt, right? Like, my kids played. I had 4 kids, and
not supposed to look at your kid, Dad.
And yeah,
like and turn your head.
Which kid was it for you?
But none of my kids. I was lucky. None of my kids were that kid.
He's not that guy.
Always got hurt. But they always said there was always somebody. Now, I'm not putting down the kid that always got hurt. I felt bad for the kid. Like, God, if there's a hole to be had in the field, there's one kid that's going to find it and twist his ankle, and that's little Billy Bob over there, right? Is Joel Embiid that guy? Is he just the guy that was the kid on your little league teams, little football teams that always got hurt? I do wonder about. I think it's fair.
I think it's fair. But it's fair to question it.
I don't question his physicality. Like, I've seen this guy up close and personal for 8 years in practices and games. I see how strong he is. All of those things. The dude gets hurt, and part of me feels bad. Like, a lot of it's not his doing.
I knew that I was biased against it as a high school coach. that I watched kids coming up through JV that when they were trying to make the varsity squad, and I would look and go, okay, well they missed 13 games 2 years in a row because every single time there's something wrong with them. And I didn't want to pick them for varsity. I didn't want to count on somebody that I couldn't count on. And I wonder, Pat, if the Sixers are doubling down on counting on Joel Embiid, and they just keep saying, well, this will be the year he's healthy. And it just, that year never, ever comes.
Probably a little bit, but they also don't have a choice. Like, he's a 7'2" unicorn. I mean,
with a shell or not a shell? You said yesterday that
he's got it. Yeah, he's got
unicorns
a shell.
have shells.
Yeah, well, some unicorns do. The ones from Cameroon obviously have a shell.
You can't not double down on him.
Yeah, like you have
Like
to.
I'm agreeing with you here.
Yeah, you have to just have the faith, because if the reality is, if Joel Embiid's injury history was that, and his skill level is Jaden Springer, then yeah, Joel Embiid's probably on his 7th team by now because he can't stay healthy. But I mean, this is a guy that broke his face twice.
Is there a time limit on doubling down though?
With a
shelf
talent like
life?
that,
Or do you just say, we're going to ride Joel Embiid for 3 more years
Until the wheels fall off.
and just say, and if at the end of his career, we never got out of the second round and he was never healthy, that because the insanity sort of definition keeps coming in here.
but what's your alternative?
I
That's
don't-
what you have to look at.
Well, I mean, the only alternative would be saying we're going
Trade
to
him
we're going to
for-
cut bait and we're going to start over. I believe because of that, and Pat and I disagree on it, because of that process and how it was mishandled, and in my mind, a ridiculous way to go about trying to win a championship, that they don't want to even consider. There's no other thing we can do. We could just do it because of the fact that it would mean saying it didn't work.
Oh, I don't think that has anything to do with it. Like, Daryl Morey wasn't here for the process. Actually, Josh Harris is the only one that's still here.
Josh,
for
the only
process.
one, right?
And I don't think Josh Harris is all that involved in decision making. Like, I think he's a pretty good owner because he kind of just sits back and watches the games and lets it
and
play
spends
out.
money.
Yeah, and spends money and is willing to spend money. But I don't think if they cut bait on Joel Embiid, it's an admission of it didn't work. I think if they cut bait on Joel Embiid, they're saying the window's closed. I had that topic before the season started about, like, I think you probably have to have that hard conversation about trading him now while his value's high, because if the window's closed, then what are we doing here? I mean, if the goal is getting out of the second round and that's the goal and it's not winning a championship, then, that's kind of absurd to me. So trade him while his value's high. And that narrative is starting to pop up a little bit more about, like, is it time to, while it would suck to watch.
It would suck. It would be terrible.
Because he's incredible. He's the best player in the world. To your point, you can't count on him. I can't get over the fact he broke his face twice. I watch MMA every week. There's guys that haven't broken their face twice in that sport. They get punched in the face.
There is some of the things, though, with where I blame the coaches. We were sitting in Las Vegas the night of the first round of the NFL draft.
Yep.
The Eagles get the trade for A.J. Brown, and we're just celebrating that, waiting for the pick. Jordan Davis pick comes in and everything. And it's 5 minutes to go in a game that was in hand, and Doc Rivers had Joel Embiid out there in the court to get elbowed in the face. And the other night, Nick Nurse, after the first quarter, he sees Joel Embiid go up the tunnel, have to get checked out. He obviously does not look right. The broadcasters on the game see it. All of Philadelphia Twitter saw it. It was trending in the first quarter. It was trending. Why is he out there? And the only person who didn't see it was Nick Nurse. So I think some of this has been coaching malpractice.
It has.
And I do believe Nick Nurse the other night committed coaching malpractice.
And I'm shocked at it. Like I
I'm
don't-
surprised too.
And like I said the other day, was there something deeper than that? I mean, I've been fortunate enough to sit down with Nick Nurse and talk basketball a few times. He comes off as a really smart basketball guy, really smart guy of seeing what he sees. You can't tell me he was sitting on the bench going, yeah, wow, he's okay. He tried to jump off of 2 feet and he just fell right on his ass instead of going up in the air. You can't tell me that he didn't see that. So obviously the first reaction is, you know what, get him out. He's not good enough to go. He rode with him. There's got to be something deeper there. Has to be. And maybe
Okay, give me a theory. Give me a theory
I
here,
don't
Shaggy.
know.
I need something.
I mean,
Yeah,
well,
'cause it
the
doesn't
obvious
make a lot
one.
of sense.
Well, the obvious one. Well, it doesn't make sense that he kept them in there.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Like, as soon as his knee,
I wasn't.
He
no,
started
no,
the
no.
game
You make
so that
Bobby. You make plenty of sense.
he started the game, so the 65 game thing, which Keith Pompey believes did play into it. The minute he played in that game, then that was covered. So
Yeah.
we didn't have to worry about that, like pissing off Joel and saying that game, you're not playing tonight.
I think it
Yeah.
had more to do with the former NBA players calling him out. You got to play against Jokic, like. there is a pride thing, but you got to save the player from pride.
You do, but, and I don't know about you guys all in here, if you're head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid comes up to you and says, I'm good to go tonight, I'm saying, okay, dude,
Well,
lace him
but
up, you're in there.
He did the same thing against Denver. Don't put me on the injury report. I'm playing tonight.
Right.
And then in warm-ups, they go,
couldn't jump.
you can't jump. You're not playing tonight. So why is it any different?
I guess he could jump in warm-ups the other night. And I'm not being like.
No, I know,
facetious or
He
Yeah,
couldn't
anything
in the
like
first
that.
quarter,
I don't know,
though. I
but-
mean, he
It was a
couldn't.
disaster.
Yeah, I would love to sit Nick Nurse down and say, like, you had to see it, right? You did see in the first quarter that he went to jump off of 2 feet and he fell flat on his face.
That'd have to be a private conversation because I think
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
in the media he's going to give you a completely different answer. But it is weird. Like when you see a guy's knee buckle as he's running and he falls down, how do you keep him in?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so
he did.
that's the oddity to me more than playing him.
By the way, if you want to see broken faces, which we don't, after Joel Embiid suffered it multiple times, Joe Watson, former Philadelphia Flyer, will be here, legend. He's 80 years old, and he played in the Old Timers game last Friday night. And I believe, Pat, you did say you could take Joe Watson. Was that the?
No, I said I can get my ass kicked by Joe Watson.
Oh, I
Like,
didn't
don't
realize that.
I don't mind for the people here to give him a little bit of a show.
Be a little bit of a show.
Yeah.
Who wants to see Pat get his
Lot-
backside kicked by
A
an
lot of
80-year-old
people
man?
want to see me
Clap.
get punched
There
in
you
the
go,
face.
there you go,
There
there
we
you
go. See, a lot of people want to see me get punched in the face. Don't blame them for that. I've said a lot of stupid stuff, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting beat up by an old man.
Old man.
Well,
Oh.
80. I mean, 80.
Oh.
I'm trying to poke the bear.
Old dirt
I
man.
wouldn't poke the bear. I mean,
I'm Desmond Bain out here. I
man
poke
looks
bears.
like looks like he could just rip the top off beer bottles.
Yeah.
Probably.
He may have.
There's
he may
very
have
few
too.
of
by the
us
way.
in here that saw Joe Watson play.
See,
I
Just the
I
dads.
missed him by a few years. Admittedly, admittedly, I missed him.
Yeah.
by a few years. Hey, again, we as we track the Sixers news, and there really isn't any, except that they're going to wait on the weekend
I'm
and
terrified.
reevaluate.
I'm terrified of
weird-
the 2 to 3.
I think they may have
reevaluation.
gotten an. My belief is they may have gotten an answer that they didn't like, and now they're just doing a little game of kick the can of going.
Yep. The formulating a treatment plan is concerning to me. You're formulating a treatment plan. Don't you? Like, how do you not already have a treatment plan for something as common as
A
a
meniscus.
torn meniscus?
Yes.
Like that's a torn. If
I bet you I could
So,
Google it, and
if
it would tell
Jaden
you
Springer gets
how
a
it-
torn meniscus, it's like okay, surgery or rehab.
Now, they didn't say torn, let's not forget.
Yeah,
All right,
well,
so we
reports
can't put that in there. So here it is last night for you guys here. I'm at bowling. It's like 7 o'clock, and a bunch of my friends are coming up. What'd you hear about Embiid? What'd you hear about Embiid? At 7:13, we get the following text from the Sixers, and we can share this because it's been printed out. An MRI following Tuesday's game and further evaluation over the last 24 hours revealed an injury to the lateral meniscus in Embiid's left knee. Embiid, in consultation with the 76ers medical staff and several leading specialists, will be, now this is the key here, OUT, all in capital letters, out through the weekend while treatment plan is finalized. Updates will be provided. Okay. Why are you capitalizing out?
Do you read?
Well, it's either in or out. I can
Right.
read. I really don't need you to capitalize out.
do you read it as? Do you
Yeah.
do you yell when you read it to yourself when you
No, I
read that?
don't.
When you see something,
I-
someone feels the need to speak
So
in
I'll
capitals.
tell you my reaction. So I read it. Somebody comes up to me and goes, hear anything about Embiid? I said, yeah, here, read this. And then they look at me and they go, what do you think? And I said, he's out for a long time. That's my initial reaction. He's out for a long time. Now, what is your terms of long time? I don't go towards, hopefully he's back for the playoffs. Maybe that's the case. I don't know.
That's where I went.
I do say weeks.
I'm fine.
and
with
you
that.
do not have a lisp. You're saying weeks.
Weeks.
I am fine with shutting him down for weeks. Now, I mean February.
You are
not.
for what though?
Because I've been down this road before of the 2 to 3 week, and we're gonna rehab and stuff. At this point, just I'm cool with shit.
Then season's over.
Like I'm
That's what you're saying.
I'm being a complete little bitch boy with this, but no, I don't think season's over. I think it's important to get him good for the playoffs because
All
I do think whoever they play in the playoffs, like if they have a fully healthy team, they're really formidable.
So I have to ask you. You say you're used to this. So
Yeah.
if you're used to this, and then you say, "Well, I'm okay with it as long as he's okay for the playoffs." Well, if you're used to it, and then he was okay for the playoffs, which you see before, that still doesn't work either. So why are you okay
Because
with
he gets
it?
a lot of times he gets injured in the playoffs.
But
Yeah.
if the Sixers though
No,
are
you put your mic back down.
if they're a 5 seed, 6 seed,
You.
if they're a 5 seed, 6 seed, all you're doing is trying to bluff yourself into saying, "Yeah, I think they're going to make a run this year." I don't care if he's healthy or
Yeah,
not.
welcome
You're
to being
not
a Sixers
making their
fan.
run.
I love
Yeah.
bluffing myself.
When
I
you're-
love it.
When they were
I
a
live
one
for this.
when they're a 1 seed and they can't get out of the first round, second
Love it.
round. When they're a 2 seed and they can't get out of it, 3 seed can't get out
Love
of
it. Love it.
I have no reason to believe as a 5 or a 6 that they're going to. That would have to convince me. It would have to be a big time to try to convince me.
That would be the most Sixers thing of all time, though.
Yes.
That
They
they're
finally
the
get out of the second
7th
round
seed
as a
and they
6
get
or
it,
7 seed. I mean, their February is really tough, and he's probably going to miss. I would assume the most of February if what you're saying is true, and I agree with you. I mean, he's not going to come back in a week, but their February is tough. After that, I mean, their March. I haven't really looked at it, but it can't be tougher than February. February, they're playing killers.
Yes.
Like Milwaukee, Boston, Golden State comes in. Like they're playing really, really good teams, and I don't know.
Do you feel
It's
more
depressing.
bad?
It sucks.
Yeah. All right. Great word. Depressing. Do you feel more badly for yourself or for the player?
No, for him.
Because I think fandom is starting to turn that way. Before it was, oh my God, we're never going to win a championship. This guy always gets hurt. Now I do think it's changing to, oh man, that's a shame. This guy just can't stay healthy.
Well, whoever made the decision to put him on the court the other night when he was hurt, I don't feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for the fact that they have such poor decision making. And if that was Joel or if that was Nick Nurse, whoever it is, I feel sorry that we were subjected to such poor decision
Look
making.
at it the other way to get your answer. I'm confident the coaching staff, management, and medical staff didn't say, I don't care how you're feeling, get out there. It was Joel Embiid who wanted to be out there.
Hey,
Yeah.
Fanatic Fridays are presented by Pump Man Philly.
Pump.
That's it? That's all you can give
That's all
me?
I can get. Dude, we just talked about a depressing topic of Embiid being out for a month. Pump.
For 24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement, count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. We have a missing persons report out on Jim Curtin and hope he's okay. Andrew DeCecco is in the house from Inside the Birds and 97.5 The Fanatic as we look at some of the off-season storylines for your Birds coming up. Ricky Patalico joins us later, and then Joe Watson kicks Pat's backside. You want to get on YouTube for that one. John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. I love the Bet Park. Very good. Bob enjoying breakfast, whatever that's like a pancake, sausage, bacon.
So it's French toast, sausage, bacon, syrup poured all over the top of it, and I don't know what that stuff is, but it's damn
Cream
good.
cheese.
But you love it.
Is it cream cheese?
Cream cheese.
It's
All right.
cream cheese.
Yeah, John's like,
Yeah, that looks like a lot of stuff.
Jim Curtin just texted me back.
That looks like so. What did we get word from Jim Curtin? We have they just broke into Action News and said there's like a helicopter out looking for Jim Curtin.
Yeah, he said, I'm a bleeping moron.
Oh, well,
That was his response to me when
Was
I
he
said,
saying it about you, or was he saying it about
no,
himself?
he's saying about himself. Yeah.
So Jim missed.
I texted him and said, this is the last time I trust a McDevitt guy.
You know,
And he said, I'm so sorry, I'm an idiot.
that is so you got an idiot from
I
him.
got bleeping moron.
I think we're going to be able to get him on the line too and find out what happened this morning for Jim Curtin because they were worried about him on Channel 6.
I think it was after Bobby's like horned up 6 a.m. hour of fingers in places, and then he said
Jim-
he said something else, man. I
Jim
think,
was afraid it would reflect poorly.
yeah,
on
I
the
think
Union
Jim was
brand.
like, I can't, I don't know what's gonna happen, and my eye might get poked out by
I don't
Bobby.
think so.
I'm good.
No, he's an Irish Catholic like I am. I think he thinks the same way I do of fingers and dikes. I mean, those.
He uses the
That's how
expression.
water.
What?
That's
what is
how
an
water
expression?
gets stopped from
Like,
coming out of a leak. Pat,
that's-
you put your finger in it.
I've seen the videos online. I've believe it or not, I've gone down that rabbit hole before. I'm well aware.
It's not a rabbit hole. It's a dike.
There you go.
It's a lobster hole on
Well, fingers.
lobstertube.com.
So there you go. The Fanatic Fridays, Fanatic
Oh, my
Fridays
God.
are presented by Pump Man Philly.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, you're
There you
pumping
go.
all right.
24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement. You can count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. And thanks again to Ember Smokehouse and Tap in Chalfont, Pennsylvania, with the best in smoked meats, comfort foods, cold brews. Visit embersmokehouseandtap.com. We will be having one of our newest team members, Andrew DeCecco, joining us here. He's in one of the red chairs as we are awaiting a phone call. I understand a phone call is going to be coming in.
So that's the best part. He's on the line, and we're having trouble
Oh,
ringing him.
Yeah, well, let him sit there for a while.
yeah, you know what? Let Jim Curtin
Yeah.
sit and just stew on what he did and pay attention to it. So we'll see if we can get Jim.
I'm texting
hooked
Brennan
up.
Gunn right now to try to figure it
We'll
out.
see if we can figure it out. So Andrew DeCecco from Inside the Birds joining us here live in studio. It has been that's a lukewarm. The end of the season has left everybody in a bit of a hangover.
Yeah, I mean, understandably so. I mean, the way that that unprecedented 1-6 skid, but I think there is going to be room for optimism. It's going to take a little bit of time. The Eagles have a lot of work to do, but I think that there is a path to them returning back to prominence.
I tried optimism earlier. I gave them the fact that the Eagles have only 8 teams in the NFL have an easier schedule than the Eagles next year. Bob glazed over, not even caring about it. The Commodes go out and hire Dan Quinn.
They might
Who-
get Chip Kelly, too, as the OC.
Oh, that's a perfect combination. Because Coach Bro, he's already making up all his slogans and his and everything like that for the season down there. Washington will soon learn. A really, really nice man, but the Emperor has no clothes.
Yeah, I mean, you know him pretty much
Pretty well.
better than anyone in this area. So, I mean, I think
Good
that was
man.
I think that was an underwhelming hire. I'm kind of perplexed as to how Mike Vrabel still doesn't have a gig, but next coaching cycle, I guess. But I mean, look, if you're the Eagles, that's a win. That's a win hire, and if they get Chip Kelly, even more so. I don't think you're concerned about that at all.
I think that Chip Kelly with a young quarterback, does that even not intrigue you at all? Like, because they're going to have second pick in the draft, correct? So they're going to be drafting somebody. I would imagine tutelage, it could be good, but they're going to break the wheels off that defense. I mean, it'll be terrible.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan of football, I think Chip Kelly's offenses are always really interesting to watch, if nothing else. So I'm hoping that he does return to the league.
Here he is, Pat. He is on the line with us. And Andrew, if we can just take a little breather here. The head coach of the Philadelphia Union, Mr. Jim Curtin, joining us on the John Kincade Show. How are you, Coach?
Jim?
We're having
Technical
fun.
difficulties.
Having fun here.
Well, we appreciate, Coach, and we understand it. Everybody has made a mistake.
No,
He's in the office.
this was
He left-
payback.
Yeah, he said he left the house at 5 a.m. to go to the office, had a lot of phone calls and stuff to make, and completely forgot about us. But it's funny, he was listening to the show on his way into the
Well,
office.
we appreciate that, Jim,
Yeah,
very,
but-
very much, that
yeah.
you're listening to the show.
Yeah.
I said,
So,
but
we'll get him
we'll get Coach in on another time, and hopefully the Union gets off to a great start there. Andrew DeCecco found his way in this morning, though, and now
He remembered.
he will be a major contributor now to 97.5 The Fanatic. We appreciate that. That'll be fun to have you in the house.
I'm
That's
excited.
good
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
because
excited.
draft season's up.
Love draft season. I
You
mean,
love
look,
draft season.
The NFL never sleeps, which is good for someone like me. But yeah, draft season. This is right around the time where everyone typically dives in, and it's a really busy time for me. I do things differently now, so I'm constantly gathering information on the phone and watching a lot of college tape.
Now, Pat, you know Tunis well. I wanted to give Andrew, as one of our another Andrew on staff here, I wanted to give him some little tips, Bobby, to really get under Tunis's skin. Start talking about mock drafts.
Oh, boy.
Oh, he hates mock drafts. And I do agree with him on the concept that a mock draft makes no sense to me either, because of the fact that the minute a trade comes down, the entire board's flipped upside down and nothing matters at that point. But to me, what's more important is how many of the first 32 players off the board can you get? That is how I judge a mock draft and say how many. And by the way, guys like Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay over time have been ripped about it. They do pretty good on picking the percentage of the first 32 guys off the board, even compared to some of their peers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way that, every year, I think since 2020, me, Jeff Mosher, and Adam Kaplan, we get together and
Great work.
We do the podcast and we do our mock draft first round, seeing how many we can get, how many first-round players we can actually get right, but also
But I love doing this. One word of what happened, especially in those last 7 games. I have my word. I think the Eagles have kind of told us what they think their word was the problem. What's yours?
disorder. Disorder is the one word that I have for you. I've gotten a lot, Bob, of folks that say that there is a lack of effort, and I never once thought that there was a lack of effort. And I always say, don't confuse lack of effort with disorder and ineptitude. Right? They're two different things, and they just weren't good enough. They weren't executing at a high level. You had two guys running into each other in the postseason. Didn't seem like they were ready for that game. But that was all season long. That wasn't a lack of effort. That was just a lack of cohesion and just sort of. You struggle to find the word for it, but they just didn't have a lot of chemistry out there.
Which lends to my word, which is coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think these players didn't know where to be. I do think that while
Position when they went 1-6,
Well,
I think that lets these players off the hook, big time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at some of that, how they got waiting for the other shoe to drop, and that shoe eventually dropped when they played the San Francisco 49ers, and they exploited a lot of those blemishes that they were able to overcome playing the teams like the Commanders and the Patriots in Week 1 and so on and so forth. But I think that it exposed some leaks there, and they were really unable to patch it up because once it was on tape, it was really tough to overcome. So that's sort of how that sort of transpired late in the season.
Now, Kellen Moore takes over as OC, and it'll be his offense. But will it be his offense?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we were to glean anything from that end of season press conference, Nick Sirianni's taking a pretty big step back and handing over the reins of the offense to Kellen Moore. Quarterback under center, a lot more 11 personnel utilizing the middle of the field. Under center, a lot more 11 personnel utilizing the middle of the field. The league, the highest in the league.
Wait, but we don't motion for the sake of motioning.
Well,
That changes the locker room in any way came disconnected with Nick Sirianni. Did you sense any displeasure with their head coach? But also I ask you this, for a team that is supposed to have such great veteran leaders, Kelsey, Cox, Graham, all these, Lane Johnson, all these big names, to come out and literally wet the bed the way that they did down the stretch, I question, is the veteran leadership of this team overhyped?
And that's fair. And that's fair to say. But to your first point, John, about Sirianni, no, I never once thought that there was a lack of buy-in or that his voice had gone stale or anything like that. All that being said, Sean Desai, I think that you can make a case for that. I never got the sense that a lot of the players were overly enthused about about the positions that he was putting them in. It was overcomplicated. You saw a lot of communication lapses, and he wasn't optimizing what they're able to do well. So you saw a lot of Keystone Cop play out there. So I think that in those terms, I would say Sean Desai, you could see some frustration with him there, but not Nick Sirianni or even Brian Johnson for that matter.
So what do you do, though? Do you just give up? Do you just literally go, yeah, these guys suck, we give up? You're the freaking Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't.
You're a franchise that is supposed to have pride and backbone. You know what I mean?
I don't think
you question. You don't believe that ever happened.
No, I think it was
Troy Aikman said it on the air multiple times.
Yeah, I know. he's not around. He's not around
Right.
the team. He's not around the team. So I stand by that. I don't think it was a lack of effort or a lack of buy-in. I think it was really priority. Now, do you think that do I think that they're going to spend an exorbitant amount of money to bring in a free agent like a Levante David or whomever? No, I don't. But I think that you might see them prioritize it through the draft, maybe a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the second round, or an Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M, or Peyton Wilson from NC State. There are a lot of players that are right in that sweet spot where they have 2 second-round picks that I think they could address it, and safety as well. But that Nakobe Dean point, it was really interesting, and you sort of roll your eyes when you hear that because they did that last year, put all their eggs in his basket, and it didn't really pan out. So I don't think that they're going to do that again. If he's able to come back and be a contributor, well, I think that's a bonus. But I think that they know that they have to make wholesale changes there.
No one can explain what Nick Sirianni does. Why is he back?
Well, I think when you have a player like a Jason Kelsey and when you have someone like Fletcher Cox, who, let's face it, he may not even be back here, but he went out of his way to give a ringing endorsement for Nick Sirianni. And when you have locker room pillars like that, that tells you right there that you have players that are going to stand behind him. Now, what does he do? Well, I think that he's taking on more of a, and this is something that got poked fun at a lot. I get it. A culture setter, the core values and things
That's
like that.
what Pat does here.
That's one way to put
I
it.
think
I have the
that
same results.
But I think that when he takes a step back and is able to sort of look at it as a whole, you would think that he's going to work on situational football, which, let's face it, he didn't do really well in that area last season, and you're able to sort of oversee everything. Now, there's a lot of coaches in the NFL that have that CEO type of role, so he's going to have to transition to that, whereas last season, very heavy-handed with the offense, so obviously something had to change. So he will be involved. I don't want it to seem like he's going to be like, okay, you guys handle the offense, you guys handle the defense, and, I'm going to go take a nap under my desk like Seinfeld. But, I think that he's just going to have to oversee it in a different way.
Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds at 97.5 The Fanatic joining us here on First Friday on The Fanatic. And there's one pillar of that locker room that you didn't mention, giving the big endorsement to Nick Sirianni. He had numerous opportunities to do it, and he didn't. Jalen Hurts. And again, Bob and I get into this, and you being a writer primarily, and Bob and I will debate it, but you come from that same tree as sort of Bob. I have no idea why this is a hard question to ask. Why you cannot, when you were asked to endorse your head coach, why you cannot just come out and say something nice. Betty Kincade, God rest her soul, would say, it doesn't take 2 seconds to find something you can say nice. So say nice first. He passed twice. He passed twice on the opportunity.
Yeah, I didn't like that from Jalen Hurts. I thought he came up small there. You have a head coach who took up for you in that Seattle game, made himself look foolish, as they said, on the podium there, talking that they were playing for a pass interference when you had 2 players freelancing. You have a coach that takes up for you like that, and you don't give him, you don't back him, you don't give him an endorsement. I thought that was kind of lame. And now that would be out of character, I guess, for Jalen to be overly effusive in his praise for any one coach. He didn't even really offer that much for Brian Johnson, who obviously they have a long-standing relationship. But I thought when there was an opportunity there to quell any concerns or anything like that, pour water on the fire, he didn't. And that was kind of concerning for me and something that bears watching moving forward, I would say.
It goes back to the Bambi line. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. He didn't say anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Bambi?
Isn't that the movie?
Oh, it's I thought
It's a.
Wasn't it?
I didn't know where Bob was going with Bambi.
I think it's one of the girls with the fingers he was talking about earlier.
They call me all horned up, and these guys can't freaking even get the reference of Bambi.
Yep, keep passing the buck there, bud.
And Bambi was a boy, by the way.
I don't mind it. I don't mind if a player – I don't like relationships, all that stuff. I don't care. They need to be on the same page, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. This is something that needs to be followed. Why aren't you saying something nice? Why aren't you saying anything at all? There seems to be a disconnect maybe, and he's talked about it or somebody talked about the disconnect.
Jeff McClain mentioned it.
Like, that is concerning, right?
Yeah, it's right there. You can't help but come away with that, wondering what's going through his mind. What's going on here? Is there more behind the scenes that we aren't privy to when you answer a question or you don't answer a question like that? You don't back your head coach, which is really cut and dried. You just do it. You just say, hey, we're behind. Oh, it's a simple, hey, we're behind coach. We're going to do whatever it takes to move forward. I mean, doesn't have to be pulling teeth.
When you don't answer it, you're purposely not answering it. When you purposely don't throw somebody a lifeline, say anything nice about them. He's a great organizer of team activities. He's a great speaker. He's a great motivator. When you don't do that, you're purposely not giving somebody the lifeline that they need.
Yeah, you're leaving things open to speculation. And this is going to be a topic that's much discussed throughout the offseason, and rightfully so. He could have put the kibosh on that in that end of season presser, and we were standing at his locker at 7 o'clock at night when the lights were dimmed, and he could have ended that right there.
So I'm sorry, Pat. Real quick, you're asking him to lie, maybe.
No.
Truly
There has to be something that you admire. You could have a coworker, a friend, a family member that you think is a complete screw up, but you could say something nice about them. Most likely,
right here, dude.
I'm sorry.
Hit a little too close to home there, Johnny.
I don't mind it.
You really don't?
I don't. I mean, if Jalen Hurts doesn't agree with Nick Sirianni or isn't on step with what happened and what is going on moving forward, I don't want him lying.
Then what that tells me is Jalen Hurts is not lockstep with the Kelseys, the Coxes, the Grahams that all support Nick Sirianni and talk about him like he's freaking Vince Lombardi Jr. and he's the guy that you want to build your franchise around to lead your franchise. That means the veterans who are pretty much on the way out the door are the guys who are endorsing Sirianni, and the new guard doesn't support Sirianni.
Well, there's also the school of thought that Jalen isn't really overly effusive in his praise for really anyone, and that could just be who he is, right? I mean, I think
he could win the lottery and come off very.
I mean, you saw him. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched any of the Pro Bowl stuff yesterday, but that was about the most animated I've seen Jalen Hurts, answering questions.
What was it? Dodgeball last night?
I just
horseshoes.
I saw clips of him, doing the accuracy contest.
There was like motorized things going down the field, and the quarterbacks grabbed the football and tried to hit said thing.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And Jalen went off script and decided, I don't want to hit that one that's wide open. I'm going to try to throw one 50 yards down the field at one that isn't open.
Wow.
That cost you a game, which really set this thing into a tailspin. So.
Yeah.
The A.J. Brown? You think there's a problem with A.J. Brown? Do you think A.J. Brown has a problem with his teammates, any of his teammates? Do you think there's a disconnect with Jalen Hurts or with his head coach? Or neither?
I don't. I think that, and I understand why it is something that's going to be an off-season discussion, but no, I don't. I think he was really frustrated, like a lot of folks were, with how the season went, and everybody handles it differently, right? And AJ is someone who wears his emotions on his sleeve, and that's sort of how he handled it, and he eventually admitted that. He got off social media. He had to do certain things because, there's a lot of negativity out there, and everybody, like I said, everybody handles it differently. So I think it was a frustration that was sort of boiling over, and he opted not to talk about it and try to focus on his play on the field.
All right, so I'm not going to entertain the ridiculous notion that he's
Thank
asking
you
for a trade. It's absurd. But what is one realistic, surprising move you could see happening in the offseason?
To the room again, Bob. Don't be sweating. John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
I got to read, Pat. So
you do have a read.
Quiet for a
why
second.
don't you
Hey,
do
happy Super Bowl from FanDuel in partnership with Valley Forge, America's #1 sportsbook. Super Bowl Sunday.
guess that means we're back. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic. Our live studio audience, we were entertaining folks here. I thought it was good is the students, and you saw, Andrew, too, the students got a chance to talk to Scott Masteller, the boss.
A wealth of knowledge.
They get to learn about, thing, and he's asking them, you having a good class? Is he a good teacher? You're trying to get that stuff is going on. Anything you can learn about this. We try to learn about the Eagles with you. So I ask you, when does Devontae Smith get paid? And there's no way they could afford to have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown long-term, right? And I'm not saying one of those ridiculous sports radio put up a poll question and everything, but you can't have Devontae on a new contract and A.J. Brown on his existing contract for a long time, right? It's got to be a short window.
Yeah, well, one of the ridiculous things that came out of that trade thing or anything related to that is that it would cost the Eagles an exorbitant amount of money just to offload AJ, and you get worse. So that's why would you do that? But I think that there is a way that you can have both guys in there, and they know how vital they are. And right now, the arguably the top two wide receivers in the NFL, and they're going to be together for a long time. The Eagles are going to find a way to do that. That is the foundation of their offense right now, along with the quarterback, and they're going to try and keep that core, I would imagine, together for the foreseeable future.
So I guess the number one priorities during the offseason, we're getting an offensive and defensive coordinator. That's done. What is it now? What moving forward is the number one priority for this organization in your mind?
I think it's fixing the back seven. That's really where it starts. I mean, you could look at running back. You could look at adding a running back, figuring out the DeAndre Swift situation, getting another receiver in there. You got to fix the back seven before you can do anything. And you're not going to fix everything in one offseason and one foul swoop. So, with that being said, you need two new linebackers, perhaps. Zach Cunningham is a free agent. Nicholas Morrow is a free agent. Kevin Byard. You need to retool the safety position. I think you need two new starting safety. I think Reed Blankenship is best equipped to be a number 3 safety. And like I was saying earlier, you need to have smart safeties that are versatile to thrive in Vic Fangio's defense.
So just to cut you off short there, describe to all of us here, what is a Vic Fangio defense ideally for him?
Well, you're not going to see any blitzing. They try to get home with as few players as possible, 4 or 5 man rush. Yeah, and force everyone to cover. The safeties do a lot pre-snap, and they rotate, and obviously there's going to be the 2 high. And you really force your back end communication. So I've talked to a lot of folks familiar with Vic Fangio, and he was termed a strict disciplinarian, as one person put it to me, and communication is paramount with him. A lot of players may not have watched as much film as they're going to with Vic Fangio. Sometimes they would watch the same clip 3 to 5, even 6, 7 times to see it the way that he saw it. And, the way that someone put it to me was, he's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you what you need to know. So I'm really interested to see how an authoritative figure works and meshes with a young nucleus of players.
All right, so looking at a guy you just mentioned a little while ago, DeAndre Swift, do you think there's a chance they bring him back, or are they going to try to do the same thing and look for a day 3 draft day trade, bring in some guy that's 5th-year option wasn't taken, and kind of kick the can down the road a little bit?
With DeAndre Swift is going to be really interesting because they got him for tremendous value on draft day. Now, there's a misconception out there that Kellen Moore's offense, that they're going to suddenly abandon the run. And I look at his track record with Dallas. In 2019, Zeke Elliott had the 2nd most carries in the NFL. Second season in Dallas, he had the 5th most, then it was the 7th most, then it was the 10th most, but he only played in 15 games. So I think that's a misconception. So that being said, I think you're going to see more of a 2-headed rushing attack, a power element, which they sorely need, and a dual threat running back. So depending on how much DeAndre Swift is going to command, I think that would be a great fit as your dual-purpose running back, who also is going to factor in the passing game, another key element to what Kellen Moore is going to look to do. So I think that if you can find the right price point, I would think that he would be back, and I would think that the Eagles would want him back because he fits exactly what they're going to look to do offensively.
The draft being one that is one of your specialties, and it's one of the ways that I was acquainted with you before I got acquainted with you. And they'll look at the draft capital. They've got 3 picks in the first 53. I think it's first 55 selections. So you get 3 of the first 55. Do you believe that this is the kind of draft where Howie would be looking to wheel and deal? Because one of the things that Pat has literally harped on for 2 years, and he was a way ahead of the curve on it, is one of these high picks has to be used at some point on Lane Johnson's replacement.
Sure.
Because he's the next guy who they're going to have to replace. How quickly do you think that they're going to try to adjust that this year? And obviously, we're going to have you back for plenty of draft talk leading up to the NFL draft.
Well, yeah, obviously, with all the other issues that they have defensively, you have to start thinking about finding Lane Johnson's replacement. There's a lot of tackles late in the first round that you're going to be able to find value for, even if you were to trade down, I would say. But, it's kind of – it goes with the Eagles with their foundational philosophy to fortify the trenches. But all that being said, there's going to be a corner there at 22, Quinion Mitchell from Toledo, who's just tore up. He's tearing up the Senior Bowl and arguably has one of the highest stocks coming out of there. And you need another young corner because Slay's 33, Bradbury you don't know, and he's 30 years old. So I think that's a position you have to think about. But Lane Johnson is someone that he may not have a ton of time left, and if nothing else, you want to bring in a young player that can learn under him who is the best in the business. So I think that you have to start thinking about that.
All right, I'll break this down for you easily. Of the defensive line, who's back as starters next year? I'm going to say Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat. Who else? Anybody?
Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis.
Okay, so there's your 4.
Yeah.
All right, you don't have to worry about that. Let's go to linebackers. You don't have to go specific names. Is the starting 2 linebackers on this team right now?
Nakobe's going to be one of them, I would assume. But they're going to have, a bona fide playmaker there to complement him. They're not going to have him be
bona fide playmaker.
I
wow.
believe so. And you know why?
Your mouth to God's ears. I haven't seen that in a long time.
It comes down to Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is going to have full autonomy, and what he says is going to go. And if we're to believe what they said on the podium there, I guess it was over a week ago now, he's going to have full autonomy. And
Maddox, Slay, Bradbury. How many of them are back?
I don't think Maddox is back. I don't think Bradbury's back. I think Slay's. You have to have a veteran there to sort of help the young guys implement.
Okay. And then you say 2 new starting safeties because you think Blankenship's a third guy.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of overhaul for a defense, isn't it?
Yeah, but
I'm all here for it.
They need to make drastic changes, and in order to get back to prominence, that's what they're going to have to do because they simply, you know me, we've talked about this. I think that a lot of their issues last season it boils down to personnel. I should say, and shortcomings in personnel.
Right.
And they have a lot of work to do.
All right, looking at one guy that I don't think anybody wants to see in part of those drastic changes is Hassan Reddick, but he's coming into the last year of his contract, and he's been a good soldier. He hasn't complained. He hasn't held out, but what's the deal there? Do you think they look to lock him up, or do they think it's 3 years and thanks for your service?
I think you have to consider locking him up. I mean, he's been – when the pass rush struggled last year, Pat – he was one guy you can rely on. He had 11 sacks. It was quiet. You know, he's been known as the closer, but he's been so consistent. And when you don't have a lot of premier pass rushers that you can count on, Josh Sweat is one, but he really tailed off last season. It looked like he wore down after that in the second half of the season. I think you have to find a way to lock up Hassan Reddick.
I love I love that there's any glimpse of optimism. Are the Eagles, in your mind, if I was to say far closer or even closer to the 10-1 or the 1-6? Do you believe there's any potential? We talked this year of a Super Bowl hangover. Is there a potential hangover from the 1-6 finish, or will the new coaching staff clear that out?
No, I don't think there's going to be a hangover because you're going to see a lot of different players in there that aren't privy to their the 1-6 skid. So I think that getting a lot of new personnel in there and fresh faces is going to help invigorate the locker room. It's going to offer a new perspective, and the coaches are going to have new players to mold and integrate into their culture.
We talk about the players maybe not saying it, but I'm going to ask you to say it. What is the best thing about Nick Sirianni being a head coach of a football team?
Players like him. They play hard for him. I mean, now you can argue. The level of play wasn't where it needed to be, but again, that goes down to on-field personnel that I didn't think was where it needed to be. But there's not a lack of buy-in with him, and I think when you look at that unprecedented skid, most coaches would have a lot of players that would roll over, and the Eagles did not. So I think that there's something to be said for that.
Looking at the vets, and we always point out how this locker room has a lot of good vets and should be a strong locker room because of that. You have a lot of guys that have been there, done that, but you've got two guys in Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox who are in the final year of their deals, and they'll be free agents. Who comes back? Do neither of them come back? Do both of them come back? What do you think happens?
Great question. I think BG will be able to write his own ticket and come back as long as he wants to. He's someone that said he wanted to play 15 years, wanted to play with the same team. He's likely to come back on a team-friendly deal. I think BG stays. Fletcher is going to be really interesting because I think that he arguably had one of his better seasons in recent memory, so he's going to command a decent amount of money. Now, are the Eagles going to allocate a significant chunk of change to Fletcher Cox when you have two young players that you invested in? Probably not. I could see him playing maybe 1 year under Jim Schwartz again, or I could see him, maybe not playing anymore and retiring. So that's something to keep an eye on. But I think Brandon Graham will be back.
One of our listeners pointed out something in DMs. You said Jeffrey Lurie is going to make sure that – I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Lurie is going to make sure that everything that Vic Fangio needs, he's going to have. Do you think that there's a part of the discussion that when he's brought in that it bypasses Howie Roseman, it bypasses Nick Sirianni, and it goes directly to the owner?
I think when you look at just the magnitude of their collapse, the owner knows that, okay, if we're bringing in a big personality like that, we have to get him what he needs. And instead of sort of filtering it down to Howie, I think he's just going to take matters in his own hands. And I think that I would have to think that was part of the agreement. Get this guy whatever he needs to be able to get this defense back to a respectable level.
Does that take something out of your general manager's hands, though? Does that take away a little bit of Howie's power?
Not necessarily.
If he's being dictated to what he
Not
has to
necessarily
do?
because Howie Howie's able to determine how he gets those players, whether that's through a draft day trade, whether that's spending a significant chunk of change on a free agent like a Xavier McKinney or a Darnell Savage, talking safeties now, or investing in a linebacker. He can get creative in how he does it, and I think that right now the general consensus is that a lot of folks are down on Howie, and this seems like the optimal time where he comes out of nowhere and hits a big trade and gets everybody to jump back on board.
Is there a position where the Eagles will start a rookie next year?
Yeah, corner, I would imagine.
Wow.
I like that idea. Didn't it?
I don't know that you'll have two rookies playing corner.
Well, I say wow because you had 3 rookies in here this year that got playing time. But in your mind, they're not good enough, and another rookie would be better?
Well, it could be Kelee Ringo. I think Kelee Ringo did some good things last year, and depending on where they go in the first round, like, if they get a guy like Quinion Mitchell, you're not going to draft him in the first round, likely to sit. But I think that all that being said, you're going to probably see a young player starting on the outside opposite someone like a Darius Slay as he helps a young player integrate into that defense.
Last year sucked. Who got better?
Good summary, Pat.
Who got better?
You're stumped.
Yeah.
Well, and I asked because I was looking at the defensive side of the football. I'm like, no one played well.
No,
no one really played
you're
well.
right.
And then
in
offensive
the first
side.
half of the season, I thought Reed Blankenship acquitted himself pretty well, Pat. But everyone took a nosedive that second half of the season. I don't know that anyone improved. You could say the young players got experience. They don't have anything to bounce back from. But yeah, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find.
That's wild.
If you think about it, I mean, Zach Cunningham looked all right in the first half of the season, and then his play, like everyone else, sort of tailed off. Same with Jalen Carter. I mean, yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, I want to ask you one thing before we let you go. Super Bowl coming up, Super Bowl 58. We will not be having pizza in Phoenix this time around. It is in Las Vegas. Do you appreciate the Chiefs as an underdog? I gave the number earlier. 13 games as an underdog. His last 13. Mahomes has covered the spread 12 out of the 13. He's an underdog this morning. Where are you looking at this matchup, and how do you think it breaks down?
Well, it's really hard to look past what the Chiefs have been able to do. Every time I'm ready to turn the page and shut the door on them, they always find a way to reel you back in, and they're kind of hard to bet against, man. I would lean towards Kansas City. Now, I do have family in San Francisco. I'm not gonna.
You hate them?
I don't root for teams. Do I hate them?
I'm just wondering.
No, not at all.
I mean, I'm asking.
I'm just rooting for a good story out of this game. I don't really care who wins, but I think the Niners. I think the Niners are going to be overmatched in this one.
Just
Sounds
fo-
like Bob Cooney.
just
you sound like
football
Bob
guys.
Cooney Jr.
It's just a couple of football guys wanting a good football game. That's all it is.
It's just a good football.
Not a couple
No,
soy
he
boys.
does watch football like that, though.
No, I know.
I just want to see good football. I hate watching bad football. So with all that being said, I just think Kansas City is a juggernaut that's tough to beat. Patrick Mahomes is the modern era Tom Brady in that he always finds ways to pull it out. So it's kind of hard to go against.
You
him
hate
like
watching
Kansas
bad football. Man, that's tough for being an Eagles beat writer the past
City.
8,
Well,
9
it's
weeks.
your job. I mean, you have to figure out why the quality of play on the field isn't where it needs to be.
I feel,
He
I
didn't
feel,
have Jarvis
I feel
Tornado.
that's a good point. Yeah, you didn't do the process.
We love to have Andrew DeCecco with us from Inside the Birds and now part of the 97.5 The Fanatic family. We'll be leaning on you big time as we approach the draft and the offseason and free agency coming up and everything. So you're going to have plenty of work to do. We appreciate you being here today, buddy. Andrew DeCecco, everybody.
Thank you.
Please give him a make him feel good. Good job, man. Want to get before Ricky Batalico joins us coming up in around 15 minutes. I want to have a little time to talk about the big story of the day that we've been chatting. You can still sit in that red chair, Andrew. It's yours. Is Joel Embiid's injury, which we're still waiting for the re-evaluation. I think, Bob, would be fair after the weekend. And for those who didn't join us earlier on in the show, what does it actually mean? And most of you don't know, Bob Cooney, a surgeon before he became a talk show host, proctologist, a different specialty.
Here we go. More fingers.
But he might be able to help us out a little bit. Is what is the story? What is the story with the meniscus? And why no mention of a tear? Is there another thing you can do to a meniscus? Can you strain a meniscus? Can you?
Yeah. And Mark, you're good at speaking on this. Yeah, you can stretch
Karate
it.
Mark in the house.
Yeah. Yeah,
There you go.
you can. Yeah, you can do. You can get it towards tearing. It can be stretched. It can be strained. Yes, all that stuff. It was interesting that they put out there that they didn't put out there that there was a tear. It's interesting also that I read earlier for people that weren't here in the text that I got sent last night that he will be out, capital O, capital U, capital T, for the weekend.
He will be out.
Yeah, like I thought that was a funny way of terming it, but I'd be surprised. Mark and I were talking karate. Mark and I were talking off there, and Mark's been around injuries in his profession an awful lot. It's a weeks thing maybe, and weeks meaning could be. If I'm a predictor, I'm waiting for that 6 to 8 weeks. I really am. That's what I'm looking to see. You're talking 2 months. You're talking then the next question, which I had to ask all the time when I was covering team. Okay, if that's 6 to 8 weeks, does that mean when he starts to get back into shape, or does that mean when he's going to be back on the court? Well, we'll see. Usually, it means 6 to 8 weeks is okay. Then we'll put him back on the court. Now you're talking another 2 weeks to ramp him up to get 5-on-5 play and that's hard to do because the team's traveling and all that. So, to me, I hate to be the bear. I don't think it's good news.
I don't think it sounds like good news either.
No.
It sounds like, though, and we joked about it at the beginning of the show today, it sounds like Groundhog Day when it comes to Joel Embiid and his career and what this franchise has had to deal with. And the one thing I wrote a piece for 975thefanatic.com this morning before we started. The idea is I had a list of don'ts for Daryl Morey. Don't take the assets that you've just acquired. Don't take the pile of assets and say, we're still going to make a run at it this year. Because if Joel Embiid does have something, this is going to take time to heal, whether he tries to play through it or whether he has surgery and then tries to rehab off of it. This isn't the year to commit all your assets and say we're all in and trying to win a title, is it?
Not if you're getting him back at playoff time. Not if it's, we're hoping he's okay for the playoffs. No, because there's you don't just plug in somebody and say, here you go. All right, we traded for these guys, and Joe, you get to play with them in the playoffs and watch how good this is going to be. It doesn't work like that in the NBA. So you're probably right on that. If this injury lingers long, it's going to change the way Daryl Morey perceives how he goes about this trade deadline next
I know
week.
fans are going to be calling in all week. We have a trade deadline coming up next Thursday afternoon. It'll be right in the best show ever. Tyrone campaigns for that. For him to end it during the best show ever, so they get the breaking news.
Yeah.
I would say that there's going to be a lot of fans that are saying, you got to go for it. You got to still go for it. There's big names out there. I don't want to star hunt when I believe the biggest star that has to carry everybody on their backs isn't going to be, at least, there's no way he's going to be 100% the rest of this year, even if he has surgery or if he tries to play through it. So I don't think this is the year to just empty the coffers and go for it.
I don't think that either. I don't think that. We'll have to see when the injury report comes out. But, yeah, that seems pretty obvious. I don't think there are a lot of stars out there. I think they've been gotten pretty much. So, if you were looking for anything, it was pieces. Pieces to me says probably rest of the year type of thing. I don't think Daryl Morey's going to mortgage any of their assets that they have moving forward for a rest of the year type of thing when Joel Embiid is in this situation. We also have an update.
An update?
It's not breaking. It's kind of breaking news, Pat.
Okay.
Is it?
So that
Pat
little,
can put this in instead of the Penn score in the
Yeah.
updates.
Penn Brown tonight, 7 p.m.
Penn Brown.
Get excited.
Get your Bet Parks app
Get
out.
excited,
yeah, there you
folks.
go.
So the thing up in Punxsutawney,
Yes.
the little what do they call 'em?
Punxsutawney Phil.
This is breaking
Yeah.
news to
What
you?
did he
This
What
is-
did he have to say? The little
He
migrant.
did not see a shadow, so we get an early spring.
I'll
Pat.
follow that under the Who Gives an F category.
Really?
Of the show. Yeah. Like the Groundhog
getting
Day.
early
giving
spring?
Come on.
Not at all. We don't
Bob,
get
Bob
anything
is
out of it?
horrified. If you could see the look that Bob is giving me,
It's an early
I didn't
spring,
realize
Pat.
you. I didn't realize you were such a dead set like Groundhog
it's
Day
an
guy.
early spring.
I
What
didn't
don't
know.
You
I didn't know
understand
you were
about
so
that?
passionate about Groundhog Day.
We
I had no
actually have-
idea.
So one of our guys, for these guys that are here and listening, one of our guys, Mike Vito, who's part of our crew here,
Yes.
he was going up with another station. They went up yesterday to be there this morning. So they were at a hotel like a half hour away. They were getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go there. He said it's like one of the best parties ever.
Oh yeah,
Really?
Gobbler's Knob
So-
apparently is like.
What was that,
It's a
Pat?
scene. Gobbler's Knob.
Gobbler's not.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Okay, this show.
So
is
it's also.
really
It is
off-
also.
this show
All right.
is off the
Admittedly, it
rails.
is another video you can find on LobsterTube.
So
Terrible.
the cool thing is, he says, you park
Who names that city?
like far away, and they have shuttles that take. So everybody parks at like a Walmart.
So there isn't a big
Like
Gobbler's
20.
Knob downtown. I take.
No, because people that would choke up the city if it was
They
a Gobbler's
they
Knob.
they just got Netflix.
So, yeah.
Is there a PJ's in Gobbler's Knob?
If there is, I'm sure we're doing a happy hour from there because it's 4.5 hours away. Yeah. So anyway, early spring. That's what we got.
Early
done.
spring.
Spring. So you're
Well, it's
you're
supposed to be beautiful.
your thing of a lot of snow, or a lot of people saying of a lot of snow this winter. I don't think's happening.
Well, I still want to see some more snow.
Well,
I don't think we're getting
The
any
Groundhog
snow
has
over.
spoken.
I did, yes.
Respect it.
Phil, don't F around, man.
He was wrong last year, though. I think he said it was 6 more
He
weeks of winter
wasn't
last
wrong
year.
last
and it was
year.
warm.
Don't
Mother
disrespect
Nature
the
was
hog.
wrong.
I mean, it was, yes. What
Come
did
on,
you
man.
say?
Don't disrespect
This-
the hog.
I thought you were saying the knob because of Gobbler's Knob, which is just this show is
Yeah, I got HR
out of
and
control
bosses
today.
Here. I'm trying
Hey,
to
Fanatic Fridays are
behavior.
presented by Pump Man Philly.
go ahead, knob it up. Go ahead, Bobby.
Pump!
There we
For
go. Bobby.
24/7 emergency repair pump replacement. Count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. We go to the bullpen next to one of the best arms available. Ricky Patalico from The Best Show Ever joins us coming up, and our live studio audience is with us. Thanks to our friends at David Auto. John Kincade Show.
could do my own. I could do my own mic stuff.
You don't have to do your headset.
That's easier when
I heard you. Mics are hot.
We are live with a live studio audience here. It's a Fanatic First Friday. That's thanks to our friends at David Auto Group, and we are joined on this Fanatic Friday by one of our own from the best show ever, and he's near and dear to your hearts. Ricky Batalico is in the house.
Thank you. How are you?
1996 All-Star.
Last time I checked, yeah.
It's my neighbor.
That's what it says in
Good
your
job,
book.
The 1996 All-Star. So it's you've done a lot of things since then, though.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Doesn't seem it though.
Yeah, it does.
You seem like you could give us an inning or two if necessary.
I could give you an inning, maybe two, and then the next day my arm would fall off. I'm not kidding you. I'm dead serious. My
because
arm would be killing me.
Connor always tells
you-
us
you-
that he could go out there and do stuff. You know,
He
right
can't.
now.
We
Can't?
know he
Poor
can't.
Connor Thomas.
There's no one more delusional in the station about their athletic ability than Connor. Nobody.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a guy that takes walks in softball. It's not even worth talking about.
Yeah. He's going to the bar bragging about his OBP.
Yeah.
Let
It's
me
softball.
let me ask you this as we sort of reflect on Phillies opening day was actually 8 weeks from yesterday. So it's like it's right around the corner that this season's going to begin. And there is 3 words that I hate. Roll it back. And obviously, unless something is up Dave Dombrowski's sleeve, they've said, no, we're good enough. This team's good enough. We're just going to roll it back.
But
we're
are
going
they
to do
good
what
enough?
we've always
Are
done.
they good enough?
You guys had a good conversation on this the other night.
Are they good enough?
I don't believe they are.
The lineup-wise, they are.
Well, it shows.
Lineup-wise, they're 6 deep if you put JT Realmutos at 6 or 7.
Well, they weren't good enough in 22, and they weren't good enough in 23. So I'm to
I
believe.
see where you're going
So I'm
with
to
this.
believe that. In fact, last year was a step back. So I'm supposed to believe that 24 is going to be the year that it all comes together.
Let's put this all together first and
They're a
foremost.
playoff team in my mind. by the way.
If they play the Diamondbacks 9 out of 10 times, they win that 7-game series. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
I'll
they,
give you that.
yes.
Yeah.
yeah, they couldn't win 4 out of 7 against the Diamondbacks, but
Well,
I got you.
I'm just saying, if they played that series 9 out of 10 times, the Phillies would have won that series. It was a little bit of a fluke. How many times? Here's my thing: you buy all these guys, and I'm talking about Harper, I'm talking about Turner, Castellanos, Schwarber, and I guess JT would be the other one. 3 for 39 in the last 2 games.
it was terrible.
What are the odds of that happening?
So
Well, it happened the year before against
Yes,
the
I know.
Astros.
They got no
so
hit
in
in
other
Game
words,
5.
when the pressure is on the most,
That's where I was actually
that group
going, that
falls
it has
short.
happened more than once.
Yes, 2 years in a
Yes.
row, we have the data.
So here's how I look at it with the running back thing. How many guys did you have last year on this Phillies team that had years that you don't think that they can do again? That they can't meet those expectations or whatever that they met last year?
Are you
Was
talking
there anybody
pitching or hitting wise now?
hitting?
One,
Who was
Castellanos.
he was better last year than he can't do that again?
Probably not.
Now
He had
it's-
what,
I only say
106,
that
107 RBIs? I don't see that happening again.
okay.
I don't either.
So that's one bat. How many bats are there that didn't have the full year that you thought they would have?
Bryce Harper would be number 1.
Because of injury?
Trey Turner only had a half season.
Right.
I think JT is on decline, so I can't really go there at all.
Right.
I'll stay away. And Schwarber has basically stayed the same.
Right. You're
Home
gonna,
runs, he had more RBIs last year, though.
Right. So
He doesn't hit his weight.
So
No,
let's go
he
to the
doesn't.
pitching. Were there guys that pitched out of their asses last year that could never produce that again? Maybe a Hoffman. But-
Christopher Sanchez. Hoffman. Alvarado when healthy.
well, when healthy.
I
so
get-
say he's healthy all year, maybe he exceeds what he did last year. What I'm saying is running it back. And you and Connor hit on this a little bit the other night, and it kind of opened my ears to it. I think there's more positives to get than there are negatives to be gotten.
I think there's more of a feel that you can get from your team. Don't worry about it anymore. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I don't want to hear that anymore because obviously everything's not fine. Until you bring home that trophy, everything's not fine. You have a team that's built to bring home the trophy. Now bring home the trophy. Isn't that what the fans should be looking at or thinking about right now? And I look at it this way. You're going to run this team back. You're only running it back until July.
Right.
Then you're going fishing in a bigger pond. Because I don't think right now that pond is very big for the Phillies to go fishing in.
I'm just trying to figure out is it okay to say, yeah, it's fine if we're 10 games out in early June.
No.
It's fine to be because all that matters is the postseason. So it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Even though I do believe if they played the Braves again this year, I think they'd beat the Braves again. I think they'd beat them again.
You know what? Don't keep dipping into that.
No,
you don't want to.
It's a lot to ask.
Sooner or later, that's going to change in the playoffs, and you know that as well as I do. You don't want to keep running that one back with the Braves. Now, we got their number, because sooner or later they're going to slap you back. I mean, how many times are you going to get beat up and not do anything about it? But you also have to look at it this way. This is a team that can be fixed during a season. If you have an injury, if you have pitchers go down, if you have guys that aren't performing in the bullpen, it can be fixed in July. And I think Dave Dombrowski may have taken that step. I think he had go ahead, go look at the free agents and you tell me who you want. And don't say Blake Snell because I don't want 5 innings.
How about I'm trying to think as far as who you want. I'm not sure. I don't believe it was the smart thing to just say, I know people love Schwarber.
Yeah.
They love Schwarber, and what he's done is great. I still think it is fundamentally broken, and I think that's why you batting him leadoff fundamentally about baseball since when you played that that it is absolutely wrong to think that's where he belongs, where he could be more productive. When he has a big swat, he knocks in 2 or 3 guys instead of all the solo shots that he hits.
Because he's more comfortable there. That's why they have him there. You can roll your eyes. I don't care.
And I
That's
do.
fine.
He's comfortable.
He is. Well, what do you think this game is about with the athletes?
Guy
now?
hits $170. Like, what do we care about comfort?
Well,
maybe he needs to be uncomfortable. Maybe he'd
how
hit
are those
220.
43 and 102 RBIs.
All right. I get it, but like, are they just going to evaporate if he hits 4th?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
the RBIs would go up. That's for sure because guys would be on base. What, his power completely just vanishes? He's always been a power hitter, no matter where he hits in the lineup.
What would your locker room have said? Or your
your
manager have said about, well, he has to hit here because he's comfortable there. Seriously, it would have been laughed out of your clubhouse.
He's Dave Kingman.
Yes.
How's that?
Okay.
I mean, that's the best way
and
to put it back.
And where did
into
Kingman
way
bat?
back in he was a cleanup guy.
Exactly.
I'm not.
I don't get it.
By the way, I've just kind of
a lot of you out there.
Google getting it over.
I've just kind of quit yelling at it because I know it's not going to change back. So I've just I've quit. I haven't fallen into place with it. I've just quit. Okay, you don't want to bat them 3rd, 4th, 5th, then that's your problem, and you're losing runs in the long run.
I need to do that. I can't though. I can't. I need to be where you're at and just get over it, and I can't because I sit there and I don't go Dave Kingman.
I'm not over it.
I go Ryan Howard.
I'm just like the heck with it.
Like,
why
It'll
bother?
drive you crazy.
Yeah. And when it does, like I think about Charlie Emanuel. If Ryan Howard ended up batting leadoff, we'd be like, Charlie, what are you doing?
Let's put him at leadoff.
Well, his on base percentage is great, and he hits 50+ home runs and blah blah blah. But but you're right though. Like it's gonna happen. We have to accept it. I mean, they gave Trey Turner. They signed Trey Turner to a $330 million contract, saying he's gonna hit leadoff, and they gave him 2 weeks. And Kyle Schwarber, it's comfortability. I've never in my life seen a baseball team mention comfortability with a player more than this guy.
How many?
And by the way, and not to cut you off, but all we ever hear about this guy is he's the best teammate in the world, best clubhouse guy in the world. So he's not a guy that's going to go in and complain. Yet we're bending over backwards for his comfortability.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
You're going to drag Ricky into being.
I got him. You guys are all witnesses.
Where we are.
You guys are all witnesses. I got him.
He didn't get crap.
I got you.
This.
I got you. I caught you looking.
You were
caught looking.
I'm a pitcher, dummy.
Yeah, but you had to hit sometimes, didn't you?
How many at bats?
You
did
brought
you
the
have?
broomstick.
13.
You had 13 at bats. How? Okay. All right. We'll ask this audience. How many hits did Ricky Batalico have out of 13 at bats in his major league career? Anybody?
I go 2.
Yeah, it wasn't good. 2.
What was it? It was 2?
I disagree, man. I think 2's pretty good for a relief pitcher.
I think 2's pretty good for 2 for 13.
You
could start. You could bat leadoff for the Phillies.
By the way, ironically, we're getting the bunt sign out here.
There you go.
First time I stepped up to the plate, that was it.
Really?
Well, all the rest were. I'm facing.
So you got a bunt base hit?
No. Sacrifice.
See, Nick, you were wrong there.
Sacrifice. I can get
sacrifice.
the bunt down.
Oh yeah, you would do that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can't
I only had
ask.
to do it once. The rest of them were like. You come into the game,
extra
and
inning
you
game or
took
something?
over in the 8th or something, and your at bat just happens to come up. And
Who'd you get the hits off of? Do you remember?
Bautista.
Which one?
Oh,
Jose. It was
Miguel?
15 to 1
Miguel.
Miguel
Was it-
Bautista?
was it
The
it was Miguel.
former closer of the Blue Jays?
Miguel Bautista. The
Yeah,
righty.
he was
Okay.
good.
Righty and a left-hander for the Orioles.
Jim
Actually
Palmer
was from
He was
around here.
right-handed.
A left-hander for
Parrish.
the Orioles
His last name was Parrish.
was Parrish.
not Lance.
Not
Yeah.
Lance.
You want
Wasn't Lance.
to hear something embarrassing?
Yes.
It was July, and he hadn't given up a hit to a left-handed hitter.
You're
all
no,
kidding me.
no way.
You ruined his whole year?
I did.
Ricky
Oh, that's
Metallico
awesome.
joins us here on First Friday on the John Kincade Show. Brought to you by the Bagster in the 9 o'clock hour. It's a dumpster in a bag. You know that, Ricky.
Dumpster.
I hear
in
you
a
talk
bag.
about it. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. For details, go to bagster.com. So when you go into a year, you say, where do the Phillies match up as far as the hierarchy of the National League? Is there any reason to believe that over 162, this team is built to hang with the Dodgers or the Braves?
No, the Dodgers and the Braves have better rosters, and the Braves kind of fix some bullpen issues, which is, if you think about it, how many times did you get into that Braves bullpen and take them out? That's not going to happen this year. They brought in 2 guys that are hard throwers, and it's just they've simplified their game. And you look at their lineup. Okay, I know 6 of them had career years last year in their lineup. It's a pretty good chance another 4 at least have career years this year again. I mean, Olsen's probably not going to hit 50, but even if you put him in the 40s, they're going to score a lot of runs. Acuna's Acuna. Albies is great. Go up and down that lineup. You name one guy that's a really poor hitter, you're not going to find one.
So we're
And
playing for the wild card standings from opening day?
Here's my thing. The Phillies get off to a good start for once, which means Ranger actually makes it to spring training on time. He doesn't get injured in
Have
spring
you checked
training.
in his visa?
I have not yet. I think somebody should. If anybody has any governmental things going on, go ahead and check if Ranger's going to get here on time, which is unbelievable. Every year. Every year. And you ever notice you don't find out until like 3 days before he's supposed to be there? Oh, Ranger's delayed by his visa. Well, why the hell isn't he here in December then? Get him here as early as you can. I think for
Just
them
move here, Ranger, would you?
Well, it's
for
cold.
them to be competitors, they have to start off well. You cannot spot the Braves 10 games again and say, "Oh, we're good, and then chase, and all of a sudden you're already out of it.
Yeah, and they traded for Jared Kelenic too, who I think's a stud.
And then you look at the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers are.
By the way, you better get the
Loaded.
Dodgers this year.
Would you bet on the Dodgers or the Braves? Like
This
as far
year?
as being the best team over 162.
I'd bet on the Dodgers for 2025 right now. If I got good odds, I would bet on the Dodgers right now for 2025 because their starting rotation
Yeah, no
Is-
Connie's back.
Nasty.
is going to be unbelievable.
And their farm system is incredibly
You
deep.
better get them now. That's why I said you better win the World Series this year, or else it's only going to get tougher as the years go on.
Who starts the most games in center field this year for the Phillies? And it might not even be a specific
I
name.
think it's going to be Rojas.
You do, okay.
I do. I think Rojas. Did you see him?
Yeah,
Did you
he's
see the
all-
pictures of him?
All
jacked.
beefed up.
Dude's jacked. He
Yeah.
looks like
He put
Kapler.
15 on, I think.
Looks like Kapler.
Oh, jeez. Well, we
He's
know what
old.
happens there.
Well, we got problems if he starts coming in talking like Kapler, spitting out ice cream.
I don't want to hear about Johan Rojas, too, starting the year in the minors.
We've already heard it.
I have heard it.
You know why that is, though. That's just to appease you.
Oh, so that's all it is?
It's to appease all of you because they want him to be the starting center fielder, or else they would have gone and gotten somebody.
Okay, so they're
Think
just
about
hoping.
it.
They're trying to motivate him. You're saying?
I don't think they're. I think they're trying to relax him. That he comes into spring training and just thinks he's, playing
minor
some
leaguer.
games, a minor
Yeah.
leaguer.
He saved them. I mean, and he came up with huge plays
He
at
saves,
huge times.
I don't care if he hits zero. Put him in the 9 spot and just let him go get the baseball out in center field. Because how many times have we had guys in the Phillies outfield that just destroy innings?
Yeah.
And a 0-run inning turns into a 6-run inning.
He's got Gold Glove defense. His speed is an 80. Like he's everything you want. If he
Yeah,
can,
but
if he can hit 260, you're golden.
I mean, you guys watch the games. You see the jumps he gets.
Yeah.
When you go to a game, seriously, watch the jumps. He's very old school. He's very old school in the sense that he plays the angles and he knows that he gets the jumps off the ball, which means he's seeing the ball off the bat. You get a lot of center fielders now that are worried about their swings out in center field. They look up, ball's already up in the air.
Besides Harper, who's the most important bat in the lineup this year?
Trey Turner. I think he has to be, doesn't he?
Yeah, probably, right?
We have to make sure he's comfortable
Oh,
too.
that is a joke.
And
Who
feeling
was it?
good.
Was
Let's
anybody
make
here
sure
at that
Trey's
game?
feeling good.
Was anybody here at that game? God bless all of you. But-
What, the standing ovation game?
yes.
Let's make sure he feels comfortable.
the day Philly went soft. Go ahead.
It worked.
Go ahead,
I
just-
go ahead. It worked.
Well, I
You
ju-
like
just
you guys,
set
you
up.
guys, you guys can sit here and be old men yelling at a cloud about back in my day, but
Or
it
did
worked.
he just finally
It
start to
worked.
play to his
I'm with
capability?
It worked.
I was
with
just
you.
trying to
finally
set you
worked.
Up. I was trying to set you up for your.
You threw me a
advertisement.
softball and I ended up blue
So
ball.
this year he should be ultra comfortable, ultra soft, and we should get the player that was worth the $300
You know what we should do?
million.
We should boo the hell
I'll
out of him.
bet you they give him a standing O opening
Oh,
day when he
geez.
first comes to the
I think
plate.
everybody gets a standing out.
Yeah, but
opening day.
we've become very soft.
We have. No, I mean, I think we got soft when we moved out of the vet. Like,
What
as
do
a
you
fan
guys
base.
We're
think?
smart.
Is it-
Fan base getting a little soft for you
Clap
guys?
if you think they are.
All right, yeah.
Oh, it's definitely softer fan base.
It's,
Oh,
it
no
is,
question.
yeah.
It's different. I mean, when I was here, man, you let a guy on base, it was
You
they
get
were-
booed.
Lance Parrish came
Oh,
here,
yeah,
signed one
yeah.
of the biggest free agent contracts.
Yeah, from the Tigers.
One of the biggest. And he got booed mercilessly for not performing, for not living up to the
If
contract.
only they'd have given him a standing ovation.
Yeah, if
Jay
they gave him a
Garriott,
standing
it's
O, he
all
would've
about
been
making
fine.
people
Never
feel
know.
good and positive.
Oh, yeah,
But you're not
they-
even helping your case with that because they booed him and he played like crap. You were gonna run into 3-game stretches where you just lose.
They had
I don't
two
like
games
it,
at
but they
home against a team that was nowhere near.
Dude,
what
That
you
was
they
a little
crapped the
over
bed.
500.
they crap the bed, no doubt. But like
Yeah,
that's
but
baseball.
You know who didn't crap the bed? The Diamondbacks.
And when you
But
say that's baseball,
It is.
I don't think there's examples of teams heavily favored coming home for games 6 and 7 at home that have gone 3 for 38 with your biggest stars.
No,
in two
but there are
nights.
examples of teams that are heavily favored that
39.
come home and end up losing.
Oh no, can end up losing. Pat,
Well,
I
now,
would've-
but like
a
you're being so uber specific that it's like you want me to give you an example about they have to come home and be super favored and then their 3, 4, and 5 hitter in the month of May does this and that. I'm not going to be able to give you that, but I can give you examples probably of teams that were uber favored and then they just fell in like the Phillies did it to the Braves. The Braves were a better team than the Phillies probably back-to-back years.
and the
Phillies
Braves,
ended up winning.
but I think with
Braves are also frozen from taking time off both times.
I agree with
and
that.
I think
yeah,
that's.
yeah, they clinched too early.
You
I
think
think
that
that's a-
changes?
It should change because I think that's something that's starting to stick out as a sore thumb. You know, you win the division, you get days off, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, we forgot it was baseball season.
I think the
when we play
Orioles
next series.
didn't the Orioles lose?
Yeah.
Or did they have?
Yep.
They had one of the breaks, right?
That's
They just loaded
They
up.
had one of the breaks,
They
did.
Got Corbin Burns last night.
and that
did.
helps the Phillies in the wild card race. That Milwaukee won't be a part of it. I mean, you take Corbin Burns off them.
John,
They have 86 wins written
What
all
did you
over.
take this morning? Do you really think the Phillies aren't going to be in the playoffs?
He popped
No,
the
no,
blue
no. I
chew.
think they are going to be in the
Did
playoffs.
you? You blue chewed?
You
I
blue
did- I
chew.
did have a
can't
blue-
say that.
Promo
Pat
code.
gets
Did you go
free-
to alphamenscenter.com? Did
Oh,
you?
believe me, I'm feeling very,
Nice.
very ready for challenges today. No, I think the Phillies are a playoff team, but I hate the fact that we're going to start the season and be like, but it'll be okay if we're the wild card. It's okay. Like I want
your
a
guys
I want a
over here.
divisional race.
I can't even say they're going to be a playoff team. Like I'm not there.
You
to-
really don't get.
I'm not.
that?
I'm not.
Gotta be.
No,
kidding
no,
me.
I'm not there to just anoint them as a playoff team. Do I,
I
think
think
they'll be in
they
the playoffs? Yes, but keep in mind, a year ago, the team we were fearing wasn't necessarily the Dodgers; it was the Mets, and then the Mets became the Mets, which is awesome. I like seeing them suck.
Look at the division. There's 2 teams.
Yeah, well, I mean, but okay, hypothetically speaking, though, if the Mets end up living up to the potential that they had last year, even though they traded pretty much everybody, but if
Yeah, they're like-
but that's the thing, when they had all the high priced guys, it's not like they're devoid of talent. They still have Alonso, and
Their potential right now is about an 85 win.
so they
At
get
the highest.
85
potential.
wins gets you into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm saying at the very high.
It beats the
That's
Phillies
if
in the
everybody's healthy and
NLCS.
everybody has a
I'm not.
major year.
I'm not trying to hype up the Mets here. My point is,
You never would.
my
do.
point. No, God, they're trash bag juice.
They stink.
My point is, when you look at like early in the season and you're going, oh, we got to watch out for this team and that team and that team. There's always a team that ends up just dropping the ball all season long. They can't get it right. I'm not saying the Phillies are going to be that team, but I'm just not ready to sit there and anoint a team that's snuck into the playoffs the last 2 years as all right. They're guaranteed a playoff team.
I think the Phillies will be comfortably in by 1 week into September.
I hope you're right.
I like
Be
that.
nice.
prediction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
so
we've
will
already-
the Braves.
and we've
they'll,
already-
they'll both be comfortably in the playoffs.
We've already seen though too is like with the Phillies and Pat. I think why I'm so willing to anoint them is because I do respect and appreciate what they've managed to do in the last 2 years. Come October, it's the idea that I'm going to have to sit through 5 months, 6 months of baseball where they aren't in the mix for winning the National League, being one of the best teams in their division, because that was never acceptable in this town. That was never something that people would just be like, okay, but we also didn't have all these wild cards at that time.
Yeah, the wild cards.
Well, there were
You know,
none.
exactly.
There was nothing when
Yeah,
I first
exactly.
started.
No.
So you had to win. So
Yeah.
it was, and I think you attacked the season differently, building your team, going out there and you were more aggressive because you knew there was one chair to sit in. There wasn't two. Celebrating second place isn't celebrating really worth
Yeah,
celebrating.
you get a check. We used to get a check for second place.
You did?
Did
Yeah,
you really?
It wasn't much.
What was that? Wait a minute.
Like-
Explain.
Major League Baseball would send you get money for placement.
Do you really?
First, second, and I believe third now.
It's like
I
a
did-
bonus in radio.
I did not know that.
I did- I had
Did
no
you know
idea.
this?
I knew there was playoff money. I didn't know.
That's playoff money, though.
No,
Oh no, this is regular season.
No, okay.
Really?
Man, the Mets.
I never knew that.
The Mets didn't get a check last year. God, my heart bleeds for him.
no, I don't know if they.
They
do
need
it
a
any-
payday
I don't think
loan.
They do it anymore. This was before the
All the wild cards
all
and
the
everything.
wild cards.
Which is good. So Ricky's going to stick with us for a few more minutes here as we look forward to
I
it,
am?
and then yeah, if you want to, do you want to or not?
Doesn't
It's
sound
up
like
to
it.
you.
You don't have to.
If you have
Doesn't
somewhere
sound
to
like it.
be-
Arms,
I'm sure
arms
I probably
feeling it.
will.
No, you don't have to. But
Yeah,
I
you
thought
got me for a couple.
I
more
thought
minutes.
you'd want to see Pat scrap with Joe Watson coming up.
He's gonna fight him.
Pat, I think
Yeah,
can
I'll get my ass kicked for
take
content.
an 80-year-old man.
Not the first time.
Be good TikTok. Yeah,
It'd be good
Let
to-
him go.
Hey, thanks for being with us. It's the first Friday in the John Kincade Show. We thank our studio audience for being here. And I got prizes to give away to them during All right, one of the best giveaways just went down. Our Fanatic First Fridays, brought to you by friends at David Auto, our live studio audience here with us. And we thank the Philadelphia 76ers that gave us some Sixers Mavs tickets, and Hayden won them, guessing 22 out of 1 to 25. But I had the Flyers tickets for the outdoor series. By the way, you can get Sixers tickets at Ticketmaster.com/Sixers. The Flyers kind enough to get us tickets to the Devils in the MetLife Stadium 2024 Navy Federal Credit Union Stadium Series game, also available at Ticketmaster.com. I said pick a number between 1 and 25, and Andrew Mayo, one of my
22.
students, picked 17 and got it right. He had the first choice, and he got it right. 1 for
Pretty
1.
clutch.
You go to his class?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
man.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
Ricky,
know what?
you can ask him.
He earned that.
Sounds
those
like
tickets.
insider trading to me.
No, it's his sister's birthday.
Even better.
Why
He
did
guessed his sister's. I don't know his sister.
Why did you pick 17?
You're not allowed to know. You're not allowed.
Does
You're
he?
teaching a class. You're not allowed to go. Hey, can I see a picture of your sister? What's her birthday? They frown on that.
By the way, he's making his pitch right now.
Yeah.
I feel the need to move my seat
they
away.
frown. Here's Rick. Here's Bobby moves again. Fanatic Fridays are presented by Pump Man Philly. There we go. 24/7 emergency repair, pump replacement. Count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. Hey, everybody in the audience, how did you like your breakfast from Members Smokehouse and Tap in Chalfont, PA?
I didn't see the tap.
Smoked meats, comfort foods, cold brews, whatever that breakfast concoction was. Ricky, you demanded that I try it.
It was interesting.
That was unbelievable.
God, it was
I've never
so
seen
good.
anything like that.
What was it
Just
like?
kept pouring
It was French toast,
syrup all over.
Yeah, it
it.
was
but
French
it
toast.
was like
Bacon, sausage, French toast, cream cheese.
it wasn't soaking in the
Yeah, it
maple
wasn't.
syrup.
No.
It was sitting on it.
was, yeah, exactly.
I don't
It
know
was
how they pulled
delicious.
that
a little
off.
river of maple syrup.
Okay,
Yeah,
that was
beautiful.
delicious.
Who doesn't like a river of maple
I mean,
syrup?
that was absolutely awesome. And we thank the folks from Members for being here, for being a part of it. Do you think what Pat said, because Pat is a couple other people go, John, you are so tough on the Phillies and you're so easy on the Eagles.
I never
laugh
said
at
that part. I
said,
never
you
said
did
that
not say
part.
No, but that's what they're saying is that they're backing you up saying, I'm too critical of the Phillies. You hear my opinion.
I lean over.
That's a good number.
It is a
number.
good number.
Is that straight from Parks?
I did not check my Bet Parks app,
Is
but
that
I
Bet
will check
Parks?
it. I haven't checked yet.
92.5. I'm going to go under.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to
Why?
go
Explain that.
because you guys went over.
He's competitive.
No,
He wants to say,
because-
see, I got it
no,
right.
In all honesty, Ricky, like if John were to ask us how many wins do you have for this team, I would have said 90-91.
I
You
think
know?
I'm saying 93, 94. right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
I'm expecting the best year of the last three. The best regular season record
Well, you'll know
of
in
the
first
last
month.
three. Yeah,
You'll know in
well,
the
it's
first month.
yeah, they don't dig themselves a hole.
They're a team that has been able to dig themselves a hole, but they dig themselves out by mid-June, but it's just not enough to get to the top of the East.
Wouldn't it be fun not to have to dig yourself out?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well,
But you can't. What do you change? Like, so
you
Rob
have to have
Thompson.
the starting pitchers a little bit more ready.
Okay, he's talked
Come
about.
on,
I
he's
want to
re-
be more
he
ready.
has run a
Country
club down there
Who was it? Was it Wheeler that pitched last year without any spring training, or 2 years ago
2 years ago.
without any spring
No,
training?
I couldn't even imagine that. Look, when I used to play, it's a country club. I'm not going to lie to you. For pitchers, it's a joke. You go in, you get your exercise in. That's at like
Golf,
8
fish.
or 9 in the morning. But literally, if we didn't have a game, and if it was a road game, I was on the golf course by 10:30. If it was a home game, if you're not pitching in that game, you got to stay to 5 innings. So it wasn't like that. But as you become a veteran, you leave whenever the heck you want.
The win total is 90.5.
90.5. I'm definitely going over on that.
Over.
I would definitely jump over.
Over
on that.
plus 100.
Really?
Bob, that would really screw you.
I know. I'm right there. I didn't know what the number was either.
Clinching
I
early
am
could
on
hurt,
that.
though.
Yeah.
I'm on that 90-91. But I do find interest in it that Rob Thompson comes out and says, we have to win better early. We just have to. I like that you put how they could right on it. And you think it is pitching, the
I
starting
think it's
pitching
all about the
has
starting
to be
pitching.
more ready.
I think it's all about the
Why
starting
aren't they
pitching.
more ready? Is it NBA-ish where load management comes into play, Rick?
I think they've gotten that far where they don't believe that the beginning of the season is important. I really do. I think
There's no sense
I think
of
if
urgency
you get to
with
4 innings, you're good. Hey, Bob, you're good at 4
Yeah,
innings.
right.
Stop right there. You're perfect for the beginning of the season. We'll get you 5 starts, and then you'll be ready to go 7 innings. I mean, no. You can't do that. Whatever happened to be ready for the season, period? It's like I mean, how many starts did Nola get last year in spring training? 3?
3, I think.
Yeah.
It was something. I remember it was something ridiculous. I'm
Because
like-
his last outing, he only went like 5, and it was
And then-
most of spring training, right?
And the one before that got rained out or something
Yes.
like that. It was
Yeah.
something weird. Yeah.
Your first month of the season, you get the Braves right off the bat here at home, followed up by the Reds. But you're playing Reds, Nationals, Cardinals, Pirates, Colorado, White Sox, Reds. Before you get into a trip where you got the Padres and you got the
That's pretty
Angels.
good.
And I mean, that's an easy way,
That's
not an easy
really-
way, but a favorable way to be
I
able
would-
to start your
I
year.
would say that's easy.
That's a good start.
There's
to
a
your
lot of
year.
teams that aren't going to be even close to being playoff teams.
And
in
what
that mix.
happens if you come back from spring training at 75% as a team, and then you face these teams, and all of a sudden you're under 500 against these teams?
Well, you don't want that.
I don't like thinking like that.
All right,
Sad.
Ricky, before we let you out of here, because I did hold you longer than we needed.
My bad. Somebody else showed up.
No, I mean,
didn't
is
they?
that you were known as a pretty tough guy as a baseball player.
I
You were pretty
guess.
like
Yeah,
like
you
Jim-
fought Barry
Jim,
Bonds.
Jim Fregosi would absolutely know that if there was a scuffle, you'd be one of the first guys.
I was pretty much in.
in
You
front.
fought
Don-
roided
you were
up.
Don Carmen.
What if you had to
Roided
sta-
up Barry Bonds.
What if you had
That
to
wasn't
stare
fun.
down a guy like Joe Watson? What if you had to stare him down?
I could take them now.
You think? You think you could? I mean,
No, I got
because you loved hockey.
I love
you
ho-
loved
I
hockey
love
growing up.
hockey. I love hockey. I skate. Blah blah blah. No, man, the leverage and the balance they have on skates is just ridiculous. No, I'm not. I would never take on a hockey player.
So you're not going to mess with him at all.
The leverage.
You're a Connecticut
no, they
kid
have
too,
too much leverage.
because you're a blue blood. I mean, you're a Connecticut.
I tried
kid.
picking a fight with Chris Pronger when he was like 18. So
Did you
And
really?
what happened in that
come
one?
on, I was loaded.
Wait
at
a minute,
bar.
we're just
of course
hearing
I'm
that.
going to try to pick a fight with him.
What the hell's wrong with
You
you?
were
was
loaded.
loaded in a
You were
bar.
loaded in a bar.
He was a
Shot-
Hartford Whaler, and he was not very good when he first started.
Second overall pick.
So we let him have it.
Man,
Well,
he had
we
to
would-
hear your
well,
ire.
number one, he's not even legal being in the bars.
Oh, that's
Where-
why you wanted to fight him.
Were you the
Get out
guy?
of here, youngster.
Were you the guy sitting there saying we should have drafted Alexander Daig? I wish we had Alexander Daig because he went first overall.
No,
You know that story?
I did not do that.
So Daig goes first overall, and he says no one remembers number 2, and number 2 was Chris Pronger.
Chris Pronger, I did.
And
Yeah, he
Alexander Daig ends up being the huge, massive bust. It's an all-time like snafu.
Everybody, be sure to check out the best show ever every afternoon
2 to 6.
with our own Ricky Batalico. Bankers hours, 2 to 6. Even though you get up,
It's
you
not-
are up.
Wait a minute, not just bankers hours today. I came in for your show very early this morning.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, very early.
I was up like 4
But you were
hours
up.
ago, so it
Ricky
doesn't
is
matter.
up before we hit the airwaves every
And then
day.
we have to go to the Wings game tonight and guest bartend.
Oh, that's
so
great.
We go that's for
That's great work.
cancer research.
Good job, man. Appreciate it.
You give
Love
out
you,
free
Ricky
beers
Batalico.
there?
Ricky Batalico
Yeah, come on
here
down.
joining us here. We appreciate him. That's a good one. Boy, the Wings were getting some love today. You get the best show ever down there bartending, and then you get the you get to have the this morning. I saw Catherine Scott was down there from Channel 6.
Oh, that's right.
Was
yeah.
showing her skill set.
Oh,
out
was
there.
she?
Yes.
She's got skill.
Well, I think she played field hockey,
She
but
was
they
like-
had her
yeah.
out there playing some lacrosse this morning.
Oh, okay. She's
too,
an
so
athlete. We saw
here
her
she is.
skating.
We saw her doing that too, so it
Yeah,
works.
Yeah.
We are thrilled to have Joe Watson's in the building for us. Coming on up. We can welcome in. I got to tell you, for those, and Bob, we joked about it. The amount of people in this town that grew up as huge Flyers fans.
Oh, yeah.
But there is an organization that cares about their legacy probably as much. The Flyers organization has cared about their legacy, their history, their players as
Oh,
much
yeah.
as any in this town.
Yeah, and it was such a time because they introduced a sport to this town. You know, and a lot of guys in here aren't old enough to know it, but, you know, John, you and I,
Yes.
I was prime formative years when you're winning cups and, you know, walking around and making a T-shirt with number 14 on it. That's what I did as a little kid. Or number 20 because I liked your brother Jimmy also. I can name every number on your Stanley Cup teams. Like, you guys
18.
brought a sport, Ross Lansbury. You guys brought a sport to Philadelphia, and that's what you've probably carried with you, Joe, all your life, right?
Well, you know what? Thanks very much for having me, first of all, and secondly, I would like to talk about our first year, the experience we had the first year. I played for the Boston Bruins in 1966. I played with the great Bobby Orr. Him and I lived together, and then the expansion comes along in 1967. You're only allowed to protect 10 players of the organization, and I wasn't one of the 10 protected by Boston. So Philadelphia picks me up, and very, very upset initially. When you play in the National Hockey in the early years, I made $7,500 in 1966. So $7,500 was a lot of money. So that means you had to work in the summertime. So I was doing, I was flagging traffic back and forth across this road. And this guy comes by and he says, I just heard your name in radio. I says, oh, yeah, what'd you hear? He says, you just got drafted by Philadelphia. I says, what? What are you talking about, Philadelphia? So anyway, make a long story short, I told my boss I had to take the rest of the day off so I can try to recoup and try to figure out what this really means to me and everything else. So I took that day off, and I got a bunch of my friends, and we went and had a bunch of Bubba Louie's all day and night. And I couldn't get up next morning to go to work, and my boss at the time was, remember a guy named Ron Flockhart used to play for the Flyers?
Flocky hockey.
Yeah.
Flocky number?
14.
Flocky
14,
hockey,
good.
yeah. And his dad was the boss, and he was very upset that I didn't come to work the second day. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I came to Philadelphia. And I don't know if you remember when we lost the building. I lost the roof of the building.
Yeah, glass everywhere. All
Spectrum.
yeah.
And so we're like vagabonds. We played the last 22 games of that year on the road. And of course, when you don't have games, you don't have your facility being used, you have no money coming in. So Mr. Snyder realized if he didn't get an infusion of $2 million, he's not going to be able to keep this franchise going. So he goes to 4 or 5 of the banks in Philadelphia. And the last one he went to was Gerard Trust. And there was a guy named Bill Bear, and he was a big hockey fan. He was from Boston. He played for Harvard. And he approached him and said, if I don't get an infusion of $2 million, I'm not going to be able to keep the franchise going. Well, lo and behold, Ed got up Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, and there was $2 million in his account, and the rest is history.
Wow.
That isn't Bob.
The
He
rest
isn't
is
Bob
history.
Bear's father, is he?
No
relation to
that-
Bob.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
relation,
okay.
no.
Pat, I saw you when Joe said $7,500 a year was his starting salary, and I mean
That was mine 3 years ago. Yeah.
Pat's trying to say in
Oh,
radio that's a little bit of a problem.
That's-
You do not look. This man is 80. You're 80 years old. You do not look 80, and you didn't look 80 with the alumni game the other night,
Oh,
which
I
is
don't know
so
about
much
that.
fun.
Oh,
Come on
boy.
now.
Huh?
Are you kidding me? Like
Well,
I mean,
you're kind. Thank
it
you,
is
thank you, thank you.
what is your secret to youth, other than the what do
Well-
you call them that you and your buddies went out and had?
Bubba Louie's.
Baba Louie's.
Bubba Louie's.
I knew you've had a few of them in your
Yeah.
day. I'm sure.
Yeah.
That
Wait,
keeps us young.
Well, I work out very strenuously. I always been I wasn't a guy who was I wasn't really talented like a lot of my teammates. So I had to overcompensate in other things. So I worked out very strenuous. I worked out a lot. And when training camp would start, I would start the 1st of July to work out for that training camp. And the reason I survived for so many years is because I took good care of myself. A lot of athletes don't do that, but I certainly realized that I wasn't as talented as a lot of my teammates, so I had to do other things to compensate, and that's what I did, And
You've got a book now called Thundermouth.
yeah,
And for a
yeah.
lot of these guys, their dads, this would be right in the wheelhouse to be thinking
Yeah.
about a gift, a birthday gift, a Father's Day gift, and things like that, especially for those who bleed the orange and the black.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We went to Russia 5 years ago. We've gone to Europe, our alumni team, 9 different times and 9 different locations in Europe, and one was the last one was Russia. And we had a guy named Bill Meltzer. He works for the Flyers.
Sure.
And Brad Marsh said, "Why don't we bring Bill Meltzer on the trip?" I said, "Oh, okay, fine." So we brought him on the trip, and he was writing stories about our trip every day, and there's a lot of people following us. And I never realized that initially. And so I said to myself, if I ever decide to do a book, I'm going to get Bill Meltzer to do the book itself, And
Well, if you need
so-
history, Bill is a great resource
yeah,
for that franchise.
yeah, he really is. And so anyway, it took us 3 years to get the book done, and I've had a lot of success with it. Christ, I sold over almost 2,500 now in about 3 weeks. So it's really
Talk about what that team was like for.
by Clarence Campbell. I remember when we won our first Stanley Cup, he's very reluctant to go on the ice to give us a Stanley Cup. Isn't that nice? The president of the league. The second cup, the same thing. And then in 1976, the Russians were over here beating all the top teams of the National Hockey League. And Clarence Campbell came to Philadelphia to watch the Bullies take on the
Sunday
Phillies
afternoon, I
Yep.
remember that was
On January 11th, 1976. And he comes in the dressing room and he says, "You guys have to uphold the prestige of hockey in North America because the other teams are getting beat and we have to beat the Russians at all costs." And the referee was a guy named Lloyd Gilmore, and he was from British Columbia, where I'm from. So I knew Lloyd pretty well, and he said, "We're going to let you guys play your game." And that's all we had to hear. Holy mackerel! I mean, we got a lot of penalties, but we killed them off. And the Soviets much more talented than we were. They were so skilled, the Russians. But I tell you what, it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and we prevailed.
And for those that don't know the story, the Flyer, was it Dornhofer that laid the hit? Who
Was
who
it Ed
laid
Van
the-
Imp, wasn't
No,
it?
Oh,
Ed
Eddie Van Imp,
Ed
yeah.
Van Imp,
Number
yeah.
two.
Number
Eddie
two, very good.
So one of their defensemen makes a hit on a Russian. The team left the ice because they thought
They
were
quit the
getting beat
game.
up.
And then Ed Snyder
And then
said,
Ed Snyder said, "You leave.
You're not
I don't
getting
know if
paid."
he talked to Russians. But
Yeah.
he said, "You leave.
So-
You don't get paid." And the Russians came back
And
on
this
to get
was
their asses
nationally
kicked.
televised.
Yeah,
The
this
whole
game-
country's watching it,
Which
and
was
the
a
Russians
rarity back
quit
then,
and
yeah.
walked off the ice and wouldn't come out of their locker room.
Yeah, and
You
this was-
created an international incident, Joe Watson.
Well, I didn't make the hit, Ed Van Imp, but it wasn't that severe of a hit. But the Russians were just looking for a way to get out of the game. They didn't want to play us, and you know it's funny. Went over to Russia 5 years ago. We played over there, and that's all the Russians want to talk about. What the Broad Street Bullies
Is that right?
dismantled the Soviet Red Army team, where they were the best team in Europe, and we were the best team in North America at the time, and that's all they want to talk about. Wherever I went, I got interviewed so many times, and I looked at these people are doing the interviews. I says, you weren't even around when we played this game, you know. And they said, yeah, well, you weren't, but it's ingrained in our history. It's ingrained in our history of what the Broad Street Bullies did to the Soviet
Russians,
Red Army
yeah.
team. And you know what? The Broad Street Bullies will be a team you'll never forget the rest of your life. They never will, because they're you know what? There's a lot of great teams in Philadelphia, but people go back to 50 years ago, and we're still talked about. And still talk about our team and what we did to the Russians, and they're a very popular group of guys. I mean, we had 3 guys I would say are so-called superstars in the team. The rest of us were all plumbers. No disrespect to plumbers or carpenters, whatever else, but we realized we had to control. There were 6 corners of the rink. I mean, 6 areas of the rink you had to control. You had to control the 4 board areas, the corners, and the 2 net areas. And if you control those areas, you're going to be successful. And Freddie Shuro ingrained that on us, and that's when we took care of that stuff. And there was no farting around out there, man. I mean, it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
Yes.
It really was, because you know what? Like taking, I have $100 in my pocket, you have $100 in your pocket. May the best man win. And that's the mentality we took when we played hockey.
So today's day and age is a little bit different than when you played. They've implemented a couple of rules and whatnot. What's something that you like that's different in today's hockey, and what's something that you can't stand in today's hockey?
Well, you know, there's a lot of things I like about the game now. Boy, the emphasis on speed. Holy mackerel. These guys go 25, 30 miles an hour. When I played, we were going 15 to 18 miles an hour. These guys are so fast, and they're so skilled. They work on their skills more so than we did. We didn't work on our skills, and we just went out and worked very, very hard because we didn't have a lot of skilled players. You know, if you look at our team, the most skilled player we had in our team was Ricky McLeish. And then Bernie, of course, Bernie.
19.
Yeah, Bernie, you know, Bernie was our salvation. And then, of course, you had Clarkie. There's a guy that made himself into a superstar. He wasn't a great skater. He didn't have a great shot. All he could do was play hockey. And I talked to the great Harry Sinnen, who was a coach for the Boston Bruins. And when the Flyers, or when Team Canada played the Russians in 1972 in a big series, they played 4 games in Canada and then 4 games in Russia. And the 5th game was in Russia, and Harry Sinnen came in the dressing room. He says, listen, if somebody doesn't take care of Karmeloff, we're not going to win this series. And Bobby Clark, being 22 years old, he said, Harry, I'll take care of him. And he did. He
Broke
did.
his ankle, right?
He broke his ankle. He slashed him 7-minute mark of the first in the game in Russia, and the people in Russia were so upset. But Clarkie took it upon himself to do it, and that's why Canada prevailed. And Paul Henderson scored that winning goal in Russia with about 30 seconds to go. I remember Canada won 6-5, and Canada exploded. And the Russians were all upset. But in a way, it's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
The book is Thundermouth, and he is Joe Watson, Flyer legendary figure. And we appreciate you so much for being here today, Joe. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Everybody get it. Thundermouth. Go get it for your dads. Go get it for yourself. Little history lesson
You
and
know,
everything.
Joe, I do have one final question.
Yeah.
We're in a day of documentaries,
Yeah.
right? And the other night I just watched one about an Eagles player and all. Has there and why hasn't there been
HBO.
one done about
There
the
is.
Broad
It's
Street
incredible.
Bullies?
Yeah, HBO
Oh, really?
did
I
it.
never
Yeah,
knew
there
that.
is an
H-
HBO.
HBO did it, and
know
it's
that.
amazing.
It was like what?
Really?
Well,
It was probably 7 or 8 years
7 or 8
ago.
years
and
ago.
you-
Okay.
And yet they're doing another one. They're good doing another one. The Russian game. There's
Oh, really?
2 shows. I just got interviewed from a guy in L.A. He came to our. We live in media, and this guy about 3 months ago came to our house and interviewed my brother and I, and they're doing another show. There's going to be 2 of them. I understand.
Okay.
2 different factions are going to be doing.
Because
yeah.
for those of you, I can't. We all love sports. You cannot imagine how that team transcended a sport and was just so different
You were
than
rock
what
star.
the NHL wanted. But you guys were the winners, and that was it was phenomenal.
Well,
A
if I may
phenomenal
leave you
time.
you're right. Well, leaving one story. There was a friend of mine who just went to Czechoslovakia about 4 months ago. So he gets in the cab. And the guy says, "Where are you from?" Philadelphia. And the guy says, "Home of the bullies." The Broad Street Bullies. Here's in Czechoslovakia, 8,000 miles away, for Christ's sake. And the guy, "Home of the bullies." And the guy, my friend was shocked when the guy said that. Who the hell would know the bully? But you know what? They're an iconic name. And I have friends in Australia. That when we played the Russian game in '76, my friends in Australia watched the game. Imagine Australia, for Christ's sake. It was all over the world. In
Sure.
Russia, there was 150 million people in Russia watched the game alone. In Russia alone, for God's sake. And there had to be 300 million people, just like a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It really was.
And maybe the Flyers will get one of those rings that you got. The rings are a little different now when you win a championship,
Yeah,
aren't they?
Too big.
Aren't they
They're
different?
too big. My God, you need a lot of muscle in your finger to carry the damn thing.
Hey, Joe, thanks again. We appreciate
Oh,
it. Thank you
pleasure.
so
Thank
much
you
for
very
being
much.
here.
Joe.
Joe Watson, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen.
So,
Appreciate it so much for you being a part of things and everything. Get the book, Thundermouth, which could apply to many of us here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
yeah, some more
Present
than
company
most.
included. There is the book, too, for our
Yeah.
YouTubers. There it is. Look at that beautiful copy,
Nice.
Thundermouth, right there for you. That's awesome. Look, at that. Thank you so much, Joe. We're going to give somebody in the studio audience have a chance to grab that. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Joe Watson is now, and Pat, you don't have to scrap with Joe Watson.
I
That
shook
was
his hand, and
all
I'm good.
done. His hands.
I'm good. Yeah, when I
Yeah.
shook his hand, he almost broke mine, so I'm
You
okay.
can feel it there. You
Yep.
can feel a little
I'm
bit there.
good. I'm gonna
We
I'm gonna
are-
admit defeat.
We are, as we put a bow on this Friday show, obviously where we begin is where we will finish. The Joel Embiid injury leaves you feeling what today, Bob? A meniscus, maybe a tear, maybe a strain, we do not know. But what word would use where you're at with this Joel Embiid injury today?
Familiar.
Yeah.
You know, it just feels so familiar, and you hate it. We all hate it, and we try to talk about why does this happen to him? Do they handle it right? Does he handle it right? But it's just all too familiar, and it's a shame because I said it earlier this year. I think he was playing even by far better than last year, and there's only one thing that could stop him, and here it is, and it sucks. I feel bad for the fans. We'll see what the next few days bring, but I can't imagine it's going to be anything great.
Pat, is there a reason you believe with the supporting cast that they can at least let's say, and this is hypothetically, you're missing Embiid for a month.
Yeah.
March 1st.
It's all going to depend on a guy that I talked about the other day. Tobias Harris needs to step up. Like, no more of this Toby the friendly ghost. I'm going to be the ultimate team guy and all that, and I'm just playing my single game. So it's going to rely heavily on Tobias Harris to finally earn his paycheck. And I know you're not supposed to focus on the pay. I can't ignore it. It's the elephant in the room.
It matters in a salary cap league.
It's Austin
It
Powers.
matters.
It's Austin Powers with the mole. Like, you just can't ignore it. He's a max player. He doesn't play up to that basically ever. He needs to perform like it now with Joel Embiid out. And if he can do that, and you can go. I won't even go 500 because that's asking a lot with the games that I talked about. But if you can even play 400 basketball, I'd be okay with it.
I'll give a shorter answer. No.
Okay.
I don't.
Wow.
I
Well
don't,
said.
I don't think they can last without him. The record is this year, I believe, maybe last night they won their 4th out of 12 games with their 4th out of. I think they're 4-9 without him. Upholding a position, they're fighting for their life to still make the playoffs, in my opinion.
To still make the playoffs.
I do.
I mean, there's
think
10
it's that big
spots.
of a- think about how this. I'm not being a negative. I'm really
Sounds
looking
like it.
at this honestly. Look how Nick Nurse has run this offense this year. It was totally predicated on going through Joel Embiid. Yeah, you got 51 out of Maxey last night. Awesome. We all know you can't expect that. and that's an anomaly. So do you need anomalies to win without him? You might.
Well, then it goes
And
to
you don't have many of them.
do you have faith that Nick Nurse can dial up a formula to kind of keep them there?
Keep
'Cause
them where?
To keep them in the
mix. Above the
I
play-in
think-
tournament.
Like you talked about, like he's developed an offense that goes through Embiid, of course, right? He's 7 foot and gets some run for guys that normally wouldn't get the run. Like, do you have faith in him to go, no, like we need to shorten things up. We need to really focus on team basketball. Like he's gonna have to earn his money right now, and
No question.
not just Toby, but I'm talking Nick Nurse. Like this is where he can really make up for what he did the other night by keeping Embiid in.
You can only ask so much out of
I
a
was
coach.
about to say, he's not a miracle worker.
Like, I mean, you're talking about the best player in the league is gone. So how do you combat that? Well, okay, let's look at it realistically. They're not going to be full of health without Embiid either.
No.
So, like, Nick Batum's out again. 35-year-old Nick Batum. Hamstring pulled by 36-year-old Patrick Beverly.
You just got
Marcus
Maxey back.
Morris is 35. Yeah, who's to say a Kelly Oubre doesn't run into another, truck or something like that?
Bike.
But, like, other injuries are going to happen. So where does that put your depth? Like, I honest to God, without Embiid, I think you tread water, even though, what are you, 10 games over 500 now about? I think they tread water to make the playoffs.
You're 4.5 games above the play-in tournament. And so it could get dicey. We love to take people behind the scenes here when we have them come out for First Friday. And one of the things that always puts a smile on the face is everybody getting a look at Pat Egan's wallet, which one of our YouTube viewers has tipped me off you could see on the set. Look at Pat's wallet. Now,
Relax,
Bob, hold that
everybody.
at a different angle, too, so people can see it. How do you lug that thing around? We've done this one before.
I
Look at that.
follow a motto of have the wallet for the money you want, not the money you have. And if you have a fat wallet, usually it equates to a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money.
All right. I want to find a vendor.
But
Does somebody in here have an idea? You got to raise your hand of a food coupon or something like that Pat has in his wallet.
yeah, I got a couple gift cards in there.
And if he does, or a gift card, and if you can figure out where it's to, you're going to win a copy of Thundermouth. So first person with it, you want to take a chance,
You
Nick?
actually have money in there.
All right, Nick. What does Pat have in his wallet?
I do have a Wawa gift card.
Oh,
I do,
there
yeah.
you go. Good job.
It's in there.
Good job, Nick. There you go.
We have
Wow.
anything else to give away?
I'm
No,
always,
we've
I'm
done
always,
them
I'm
all.
always
What were you
carrying.
going to give away? The
I was
wallet?
going to say within $5, how much money do you think Pat has in his wallet?
I don't even know that.
$7.
Because I'm shocked.
It is more than that. I rarely have money, but it is more than that.
Yeah.
Because someone gave
He's
me money.
got $70 in his wallet today.
Yeah, I don't know why I have $70. Well, dude, don't be telling
Pat
people
just
that because
got
I'm a
off his-
small guy. I'm going to roll out of
Now
here and
you
get my
have
ass kicked.
50.
And I'm going to get mugged. We got a bunch of poor college students here, could sneeze on me and break me in half. What are you doing, Bob?
Pat just got off his shift at Club Risque, I guess.
Sitting here
a little
pocket
bit
watching.
before the show, dancing on that pole.
That's
for the
right.
money.
Breakfast shift.
Yeah, there we go.
Milky Thunder hits the stage, Johnny.
We thank Embers so much for a fantastic breakfast today, and we thank Joe Watson. And we thank Ricky Battelle, American Association for Cancer Research today. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives. And 9 weeks into my recovery, I'm proof it works. Help the AACR. We will look forward to talking to you on Monday as Super Bowl week begins without the Eagles. We'll find out what